The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great. Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish it was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, welcome in Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner with you here, along with Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Mr. Jacob Tissa. Gentlemen, good morning. How are we all doing today? Based on the way you two are dressed, it's winter outside.
It was chilly this morning.
Listen, there's a little breeze. The sun wasn't out, so yeah, I'm gonna wear a little sweatshirt. I'm gonna give myself an excuse to wear as many sweatshirts as possible. I haven't worn them in quite some time. That's what happens during summertime, and I'm gonna continue to wear this. But yeah, listen, if you don't want to wear, if you think you're too cool for hoodies and long sleeve shirts, if you think you're too cool for it, then you go ahead, be you. I'm gonna be me.
I'm a big quarter zip guy.
Yeah, I haven't been able to let loose in the fall and winter in a long time when it comes to hoodies and jackets and everything. So I'm excited to be back up north for a little bit of cold.
A little warmer down south.
Yeah,
huh?
It's not fun. It's not fun for us bigger folks, and we like to have the hoodies and jackets and everything. And you have to wear a T-shirt into December because it's 85 degrees.
Terrible.
It's not okay. It's not okay.
Casey, good morning.
Good morning.
My friend, are in a crisp white T-shirt.
That's right.
I don't know why we're just judging what the hell everyone wears.
Yeah,
What's the we?
I started it. I started it.
We.
I
You.
apologize. I'm a little jealous. That just looks very comfortable, and I'm like, yeah, I might break out the hoodies. But Casey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. I took some inspiration from you the other day. You wore a nice, clean white T-shirt. It's my turn to wear a nice, clean white T-shirt.
It's a crispy Thursday.
That's right.
No doubt about it. But again, everybody, welcome in. Have a lot to dive into here today. College football did happen last weekend. We do got some college football stuff coming up around the corner. Jacob will give you his college football top 10 as we head into the weekend. Technically, this is your Friday, correct?
That's right. That's
Nice.
right. It is my Friday.
Are you excited to be gone?
I could not be more excited to get back to
Is it another bachelor party?
No, this is. I'm so much more excited for that. Love my friend whose bachelor party it was. Cannot wait to get back to Tuscaloosa. I have a lot of friends who are still in school there for a 5th year, 6th year, 7th year, whatever you want to call it, and none of them doctors, but still getting the college experience.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see all my friends.
Very nice. Very nice. You going to? Is the game in Alabama?
It is.
So that's where you're going,
Yep.
obviously. Oh,
In Tuscaloosa.
Nice.
Yeah, very, very
nice.
excited.
I mean, the Bearcats, are they at home this weekend?
I just couldn't tell you.
You couldn't tell us?
Let's see.
I mean, damn,
Let's find
You could
out.
have gone there instead of Tuscaloosa, but all right, dude, whatever. Let's find out.
Let's find out. So they are. I imagine they're not. Yeah, they're not on the road.
Oh, that's why you picked this weekend to go to Alabama. Because
That's right.
If not, you'd be there at the Bearcat game. So
At Texas Tech.
at Texas Tech. Nice. I do like the fact that being in the – we're done. Poor Elliot. I crap all over your hoodie, then I'm
Bearcats basketball is going to be really good this year, and it's going to be.
Unless they're not.
But they will be. So get ready for that because I won't shut up.
I feel like I've heard that one before.
Nope. What?
What?
I won't shut up.
No, well, yeah, but that UC basketball is going to be good.
They're going to be good. I believe in Wes.
It's been a long week, by the way. Doesn't it feel like David Bell got fired like weeks ago?
It does. When did he get fired? Monday?
Sunday was it
Sunday.
Sunday?
It was Sunday. It was Sunday. Sunday Night Football.
I was just thinking about this week, and I'm like, man, because like we usually have a routine of like what we talk about Monday, what we talk about
Yeah.
Tuesday. The Bengals being on Monday Night Football, that game seems like ages ago as well.
Yeah.
The Sunday slate of NFL games feels like age. I don't know. It's just been a very weird week, and I think we could kind of put to rest last weekend. I think, Monday night. Then we can move past that. It's all about what's coming up now. The Panthers coming up for the Cincinnati Bengals. The line is at 4 right now for Cincinnati on the road at the Panthers. But, yeah, this week it's been a lot of Reds with, of course, obviously David Bell being let go. Yesterday, the Jonathan India comments really kind of took off on the Chatterbox Twitter page, of course. But, like, yeah, people are fired up about the Reds right now, too, but not for what's going on the field. It's all the noise and the uncertainty of what's moving forward. But we'll touch on some of that Red stuff again coming
And
up here
because
in a
TJ
bit.
Frito laid down a bunt.
Oh, yeah.
They're very upset about
Professional baseball player tries to win a baseball game.
We're
that.
going
A
to
10 pitcher perfect game into the 7th got broken up by a guy trying to win.
Which ended up scoring.
Yeah, so
And the Guardians just needed more reasons to still get wrong where Cincinnati is on the map. But that's besides the point.
But we got it wrong because those shirts were Photoshopped. That was a good trick, Cleveland. That was a good trick.
Their whoever does their Photoshop,
was
kudos.
impressive.
I looked at those for a while. I was arguing with Kev because they're Photoshopped. I'm like, I'm getting told that a lot today, but I'm like, come on, look at that. That's a hell of a Photoshop.
I was with you.
I mean, AI is even impressed with how well done that was. But we'll get to the unwritten rules stuff coming up here in a moment. Let's open up with this just because something came out yesterday that I know you guys put out on the Chatterbox socials, of course. But Jamar Chase limited yesterday in what was, I guess, a limited practice to begin with. Shoulder injury. Don't know the extent of it, or shoulder's a little sore, whatever you want to call it. But is this a reason to be concerned as we sit here already with so much noise surrounding the Bengals, the 0-3 start, the horrific defensive performance this past Monday against Washington, Carolina, who, a week ago we wouldn't have thought anything of this matchup. This is a perfect game to get back on track, but you saw how many points and the way the offense looked with Andy Dalton last weekend. No one thinks Andy Dalton's an MVP-level quarterback, but my goodness, we've seen that if that offense does come to life, we watched what happened with Washington. There's just a lot of uncertainty heading into this matchup. Now you add the Jamar Chase news from yesterday. I don't think it's a big deal yet, but again, you just add another thing of like, well, what the hell's going on with that? I'm curious your guys' take on that, mainly because I don't think it's a huge deal, but with all the uncertainty, the 0-3 start, him sitting out of camp for a bit, of course, with this contract, we were always concerned about when you are in a situation like Jamar Chase is, he never got that contract done. Any little injury is going to be treated as a major injury if you're Jamar Chase. Is there that concern that, okay, maybe this is something minor, but he's not going to risk it? Is this going to be something that's made louder heading in to not just this matchup, but throughout the season? Any little tiny, bump or bruise, is it going to be treated as a major injury, or is he not going to want to go out there if he's feeling even slightly banged up because he doesn't want to risk getting a bigger or furthering the injury, especially, before he's about to get paid this next summer? So I think all of these things are on the minds of some, but are they on the minds of yours? Is this a big deal or not that this comes out yesterday? Just another thing to be concerned about if you're a Bengals fan.
Yeah, I'm definitely worried about it. I think every Bengals fan should be. This is business decision season in college football for guys on teams that aren't as good as they expected to be. We've seen a bunch of red shirts over the last few days, shutting it down for the season, going somewhere else. And for a guy who hasn't gotten paid yet and a team who's drastically underperforming, I think at least in the back of everyone's head is, could this be business decision time for Jamar Chase?
Yeah.
Is he going to dial it back? I mean, we heard Adam Schefter say during the preseason that if he's popping up on the injury report, that's a good way for him to avoid playing and risking injury. And I think with a team that's 0-3 and a game that couldn't be more must-win this week against the Panthers, it's certainly a big deal that he's hurt just in and of itself. And I think it's even a bigger deal because it didn't look like it happened anywhere in the game. It certainly looked like he was fine up until the very end of the game. He caught a bomb touchdown late in the fourth quarter, so he looked good to me. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be worried about any time that he's on the injury report for the rest of the year because just like you said, I don't expect them to take any injury lightly, and them being Jamar Chase and Jamar Chase's camp. I don't, if he's ready to go at 85%, I don't think he'll be on the field. I think he'll be protecting himself for 100% health, and I honestly don't blame him for it. I think that's a fair place to be as a player who hasn't had a big-time contract yet, and we've already talked about a ton how poorly it was handled this offseason by the Bengals when you present it to him that you want to extend him and then don't get the job done. I think he has the right, if he's not healthy and ready to go, to protect himself injury-wise. Would it make me happy? Absolutely not, but I feel like this is definitely a big worry to me, and just it could all be done by the end of the day if he's a full participant in practice today. So just something I'll definitely be keeping an eye on.
He's still limited. I'm not going to freak out until he's out or he's not practicing. If you're still out there somewhat getting limited reps, then I'm still okay with it. I mean, there's a lot of guys on this injury list or on this injury report, and I don't think many of them are seriously injured. I think Jacob kind of explained it to me towards the beginning of the year, where any time you're getting a little bit of work on any part of your body, you have to put it on the report. So maybe it's just a little tune-up. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to worry about him sitting out until the Bengals start with a even more horrific record than they already do. I'm not worried about it. I'm not concerned about it. Again, once you miss time at all, game, practice, whatever it may be, that's when I'll freak out because you can't have if the defense is this atrocious, and it is, you cannot afford to have your second best offensive player miss games, miss time.
You know what else you can't afford with how bad this defense has been?
What's that?
Trey Hendrickson to miss time, and he did not practice yesterday with an illness.
Yep.
So
This is a short week after a Monday night game. We're going to need him back out there because what is this defensive line without Trey Hendrickson?
if Jamar's paid and this happens, I don't think it's. I mean, I think it's part of Elliott's headlines. It's just, hey, by the way, he was limited.
You're right.
But I think it's just because he's the ultimate wild card. Look, he's a wild animal, dude. Like, he marches to the beat of his own drum. That's not a shot at him, but, like, no one saw that coming in preseason. No one saw that happening. Like, he was hard to figure out. When we thought he was going to zig, he zagged. When we thought he was going to zag, he zigged. He didn't show up to practice, then he shows up to practice. He doesn't show up to practice, he gets on the plane to head to Chicago for the preseason game. He shows up to practice, the coach announces he's coming back, and then, of course, he's not coming back to practice. So he does a lot of wild stuff. You never know what to expect with him. That's what makes him so intriguing and polarizing, especially in this particular situation. If this is a year from now when Jamar Chase is paid and he shows up on this, we're not talking about it. We're not opening up with it. We're just bringing it up. Hey, by the way, just keep an eye on that shoulder injury. He showed up as limited in practice. But because we know he did not get paid, he's a little disgruntled. He's not happy with the front office. They're off to an 0-3 start on top of that. We as fans act like, hey, they have no chance of making it back. I don't think that's what the players are feeling. But let's say that this shoulder is a little banged up. He toughs it out on Sunday, and then it gets a little bit more banged up on Sunday, and they're 0-4. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, what are we playing for? Yeah. We're 0-4. We're most likely not making the playoffs. I'm already mad at the front office. Why am I going to risk getting a bigger injury and impacting, giving them more leverage if they need it, if something major happens? I think this is not a big deal yet. It's just a talking point because of everything I just mentioned. But, man, if they start out 0-4 and he's a week from now popping up on these, I would start to be a little bit more alarmed because I think he could then take matters into his own hands and protect himself. And as Jacob said, fans may not like that. I wouldn't be a big fan of it, but it's not as if we all can't understand where he's coming from that perspective. Casey, when you saw that was the case, obviously you've had a bad week, but add that to the case. He shows up as limited on the injury report. Big deal, not a big deal. Where are you at with that?
I'm gonna actually take a positive spin on this. I don't think it's as big of a deal as we're gonna make it out to be. The last time that these two teams played, Jamar Chase didn't play, and I know we had a field day with Joe Mixon, but I feel like we don't need Jamar for this particular matchup against this defense. I'm not worried about what our team looks like offensively against this team. I'm, again, more concerned about what this team is going to go out there looking like on defense. The more concerning name was Trey Hendrickson being sick. That was way more concerning, and that had big red alarm bells going off in the back of my mind. Considering how this football team is ranked like 3rd or 4th in pass protection in the last couple weeks, you need to be able to go full strength. And if Hendrickson is not able to go, then I am very concerned about how we're going to be able to stop this team. And, I'm not concerned about, to get back to the original question, I'm not concerned about Jamar Chase showing up on the injury report. I think that with the new injury report rules where you have to basically, write down every little thing that you get done to your body, whether it's the calf thing or the wrist thing with Joe Burrow, or if it's just a minor thing that they're getting touched up on, getting worked on, that has to be put on there. So I know it showed up as limited, but they still did not go full go yesterday. It was just walkthrough. So we don't really know if he's going to be fine moving forward. So I'm more concerned about Trey Hendrickson in the long run.
Trey Hendrickson obviously popped up on there as well. Sam Hubbard, ESPN's Ben Baby tweeted this out yesterday that Bengals defensive end Sam Hubbard is recovering from a grade 3 hamstring injury. Per a source of his, he says that that's the most severe grade for a hamstring injury. Hubbard didn't want to talk about the injuries, he says today, but yesterday when they had their media availability. Lou Anarumo goes on to also tell Ben Baby that I expect Sam will continue to get stronger and better each week, whatever. But Sam Hubbard, obviously a concern as well.
When the head coach is asked about a player's lack of production and poor play and answers with an answer about his health, that does not make me feel very good. A reporter asked Zach Taylor, they said, Sam Hubbard hasn't looked very good this year. What is that? And he goes, he's trending in the right direction. That's not great.
Yeah.
Let's have him play a little bit better, or if he's hurt, he shouldn't be playing as many snaps as he's been playing.
Exactly.
It's that clear to me. If they know he's hurt and they're blaming that for why he's looked terrible through 3 weeks so far, then they need to have other guys in there. And if we don't have other guys that they trust more than an injured Sam Hubbard, that they don't trust more than the product we've been getting out of Sam Hubbard, then we need to go back to the Duke Tobin conversation, because this roster construction is a joke. If you have no faith in anyone else on your roster and you continue to run out the 100-plus ranked edge rusher, how can you justify that? How can you justify that as trying to win and putting the best product on the field? I know Tom always says it, but I'm going to go there again right now. If you have leftover cap space like this and you had an opportunity to address the edge rushing and the D-line in the offseason going into the season, there's not guys out there now. I see a lot of people pointing to that cap space and saying, go get fixes now that you're 3 weeks into the season. That's not how it works.
Go get Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, trade Tanner Hudson for him. That's what Bleacher Report said, right?
It's an option, but we all just ignore it and we mock it because we know that's not how the Bengals operate.
Yeah.
But man, if there's urgency there, if there's truly is urgency, they got to start doing things that they don't do. We talked about this yesterday. I hate when they say, well, the Bengals don't do that. And I'm like, I get that. And that's where your opinions are formulated is like, well, no, we would love to get Hassan Reddick, but we just know the Bengals don't do that.
Yeah.
That's so frustrating when we just know, like for the Reds, like that's how we always talked about the deadline. We're building it up. Are the Reds going to do something at the deadline? Well, we know that the Reds aren't going to be super aggressive in a whole lot of stuff. So, yeah, that's what's frustrating. And the one thing Tom always says too is like when you have a defense that's always middle of the pack. I caught this on Tom's show last week. I thought it was an actually very good point. When you have a defense that's not an elite defense, that you have a lot of names on the defense that are good quality names, but like as far as the production, if you have an average defense and a lot of your starters are out, what do you think's behind them? If you have an elite defense, and you miss a couple guys can plug in and fill in holes. You can kind of hide them a little bit. But when you have an average defense, like if this defense is completely healthy, and let's just say the ceiling is average defense, this is what you get when your average defense has a lot of guys who are banged up or starters out. Now what's behind them is, less than average, and I think that's what's leading to the problems here. Never looked at it like that, but it's a very good point by Tom when I heard him say that, because that's kind of the predicament that they're put in at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering what's going on with maybe like the philosophy of the rookies, because not a lot of them, I know a lot of them have been hurt at the top, but you look at guys like Jermaine Burton who hardly see the field. That Sam Hubbard's hurt and you refuse to give Cedric Johnson more snaps. Like that just seems like illogical to me. Does it not? Like, shouldn't you, even regardless of how many years you've been in the league, it's like Hubbard's just floating out there like a body.
I do feel like if Cedric Johnson is your next best option, then we're back to that roster construction problem, because that's a sixth-round pick that you didn't expect to even make the roster.
But you already know what you have with Sam Hubbard, so like,
100%.
why aren't you like at least giving him a chance to go out there and prove himself?
And
right?
I think that's why they kept throwing Osai into the fire last week on Monday night. It's just because he didn't look great, but they kept putting him out there because I think at some point they realized it can't be much worse, and maybe this young guy with a little bit more explosiveness can make some more plays, and he just didn't. So I think the Bengals are in a bad spot right now because of the misses they've had in the draft that have led them to having poor depth in both trenches. And we're going to talk about that next week on Chatterbox Bengals. We have an interview with Gridiron Grading, a guy off Twitter who does a lot of draft grades and everything like that, and he's been really in-depth about why the Bengals' poor drafting has led to them with this point of having to force guys into different positions that they're not used to playing. So we'll get more in-depth on that next week.
Big C, I do see a super chat from Big C in the chat. We're not ignoring that. I promise you that's something that we have on the rundown that we are going to get to coming up here around the corner. I want to step away for a few moments, not close out Bengals talk for the day, but just close out this Bengals conversation with just some final takeaways heading into their matchup with the Panthers coming up around the corner. And then I definitely want to get, and you guys touched on it, the bunt that was laid down last night that has Guardians fans all up in their feelings. So we'll get to that coming up around the corner. But we appreciate the super chat, Big C. We're going to get to that and that topic coming up here around the corner as well. So this is Off the Bench. We are presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett. Excited to be with you here today on a Thursday. We'll be right back. If I seem a little pissed off, it's Put the camera on you, Casey. Zoom in on you. Let's everyone see why I'm angry right now. Come on. Put it on you. Put the camera on you. Come on. You want to hog all the time? Come on.
Yeah, Casey.
No, Casey. So randomly out of nowhere, in that long break, Casey goes, "I'm sorry. We went long there. I went a little. I was rambling. No one in here had any problem with Casey talking. Casey, you are allowed to talk. But if you want to take the blame, by all means, I'm going to let you have the floor."
I'll take the blame for it.
Okay.
Oh, man.
right.
What a start.
Why are you apologizing for talking on the talk show?
Brother,
we
we're
do.
here every day to talk sports.
We went long on that segment.
You think you rambled? Wait till I just ramble about the Reds for the 4,000th time this summer.
Is it your birthday?
Yeah.
Mine?
Is
It
it?
is.
No. It's Molly's birthday.
I don't think that's true either.
No, it is. I just looked.
Oh, it is
I
actually
I
true?
had to double check,
Okay.
Molly, because that's been an ongoing joke in our chat.
When you wish someone a birthday every day, how am I supposed to know when their birthday is?
It is Molly's birthday, so I wished her a birthday on Facebook as well
Happy birthday,
because we're
Molly.
Facebook friends.
So happy birthday, Molly. That is awesome. Did not know that. I just saw
Thank you,
someone
Mark.
wish Elliot a happy birthday, so that's why I was confused. Because
No, the
I don't
people would-
sing, but I was about to sing for you.
You were gonna sing for me?
I was going to say, but I got to confirm it. Like, I got
That's
to
fair.
see a birth certificate or something. I
see.
know that's very Republican-y of me, but I need to see a birth certificate or something. I love making one political comment a day to watch him get uncomfortable.
just
It is
one.
That was awesome.
Just one.
That was awesome.
I make one Republican-y comment a day just to watch him get to squirm over there. Actually, it's more political than anything.
That was
but,
phenomenal.
but
That was good work, Kenner.
so it's not your birthday.
Correct. My birthday's in May.
Close.
No,
Right around the corner.
half a year away.
Are you closer than you are far from it?
October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. No,
We're still far.
we're still really
We're further than we are
we're
close.
further than we are close.
Yeah, sadly.
Man, I tell Molly happy birthday, and she said thanks, clown. I had that coming. All right. Closing thoughts on the Bengals as they head into this Week 4 matchup. Obviously, we talked about the Jamar Chase thing a little bit ago. Jamar Chase not the only one that pops up on that injury report from yesterday. But you are right. Like some of these things, anytime if a trainer even looks at a wrist or gives them a Band-Aid, they got a cut on their finger, he's going to pop up on the injury report and say, oh, man, he has an injured finger. Everyone's going to react to that type of stuff. But, yeah, if we're not if there's no contract issues with Jamar and the Bengals, I don't think this is even a talking point. It is just something to keep in mind as far as that goes. But this is the second straight week you're going to have, hopefully, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, obviously whoever the third wide receiver is at this point. It's a but Joe Burrow, the whole cast of characters on the offensive side of the ball is healthy. Let's be clear. For many, many years, even while the Bengals were winning at the highest of levels, getting to the Super Bowl, back-to-back AFC championship games, they were doing that with one of the worst offensive lines in football year in and year out. I know it's easy to focus on all the negative, and I'm here to bring the positive side of the Cincinnati Bengals. Who would have thought about it? I do got to say, though, watching Joe Burrow have time in that pocket, it's actually very refreshing. Watching a guy that just continues to get beat up and banged up every single season and still put up great numbers. Imagine what's going to happen. Uh-oh, what?
No.
Oh, imagine what's going to, imagine what happens if Joe Burrow just gets complimentary defense with that offensive line that's protecting him. We talked about the run game earlier in the week. I know it's hard to talk about the positives with how much negative there was out of that game, but we could sit here and be worried about what Andy Dalton can do, what the offense for the Panthers can do, but at the end of the day, Andy Dalton can put up some numbers. The Panthers can score some points, but is it going to be enough? I mean, the Panthers' defense also isn't very solid either. Like, we're asking Andy Dalton to win a shootout against Joe Burrow. Let's be clear. Well, a rookie quarterback and look how damn near perfect he was. Look how perfect Jaden Daniels had to be to outduel Joe Burrow this past Monday night. Andy Dalton put up good numbers this past week, but can Andy Dalton be perfect? Can Andy Dalton do what Jaden Daniels did? I have a hard time believing that. I think Andy Dalton's going to put up some solid numbers. I don't believe, even as a Bengals hater, that Andy Dalton can win a shootout against Joe Burrow when it's all said and done, especially as good. I mean, with the dominant weapons that Joe Burrow has.
Maybe I'm going to look like an idiot by 4:30 on Sunday whenever this game wraps up, but I think this defense can get one single stop against the Panthers offense. And at this point, against teams like them, that's all I think we need to win games. I think this offense is going to score 30 points. I think they're going to cruise. They're going to look great. And like Elliot said, that's with or without Jamar, in my opinion. I think this defense for the Panthers is pretty bad, and I think T would have a great game without Jamar. We didn't even see him really get going on Monday night. So I expect the offense to take another step forward, if not this week, then very, very soon as T. Higgins gets his legs under him. But, yeah, Is Andy Dalton going to score 38 points? Probably not. And I'm willing to gamble on that, I think. The Bengals are going to win this weekend in a close one, and it's going to be because the defense gets 1 or 2 stops. And it's crazy that we're sitting here now begging for 1 or 2 stops against the Carolina Panthers.
Let me ask you this. Will there be more stops? And I know technically what I'm about to say is the same thing. Will there be more 4th down stops by the defense or more turnovers?
Like turnovers forced?
Turnovers forced by
So
the
like
defense.
interceptions, fumbles?
So I'm saying, will the stops the Bengals get be interceptions, fumbles?
Are you counting punts in the 4th down stops?
Yes.
4th down conversions and punts. I'll say more turnovers.
I agree.
So we get 3 turnovers and 2 punts.
I think the only way, really, for this
That's
defense
5 drives we
to be
stopped, yeah.
considered a decent, we can say they look good against Kansas City, or look good enough. Patrick Mahomes threw 3 interceptions in that game.
Yeah.
3 interceptions. So by the way, to be fair to Cam Taylor-Britt, one of them was such a good interception.
Yeah.
One of them was such a good interception that you can't say anything bad about it. So that wasn't even a bad throw by Patrick Mahomes. That was just Cam Taylor-Britt making the greatest play I've ever seen. But saying that,
This
yeah.
defense has been able to get the ball out, too. I know they didn't cover the fumble.
Correct. I was
against
gonna
the
say that,
Commanders,
too.
But Jermaine Pratt knocked the ball out on that final Commanders drive that really iced the game on Monday night. So I do have faith in this defense getting some of those, big momentum plays on the defensive side of the ball, which we haven't seen from a Bengals defense since Jesse Bates was here, really, in that Super Bowl run. And that's why we brought in Geno Stone and a lot of these guys, switched Dax Hill to corner, because we said if we're going to allow explosive plays, then we need to be able to get some explosive plays back on defense as well. Haven't quite seen that yet. We've seen them allow the explosive plays, but we haven't seen the other side of that coin that the Bengals were hoping to have, be a part of the defense this year. So hopefully it comes this week, and maybe this defense comes out and the Panthers score like 17. We win like 35-17, and then the defense is just like a top 20 unit the rest of the way, and I'd be ecstatic. So
That's all I asked for.
I don't know.
That's all I've ever asked for. The defense doesn't have to be top 10. They don't even have to be top 20. They just can't be the worst, and they are the worst. You're one Trey Hendrickson injury away from having that defense be maybe the worst defense in the history of the league.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but nonetheless, I do think that if one Trey Hendrickson injury, if you're one Trey Hendrickson injury from being uncompetitive on the defensive side of the football, somebody's got to answer for
are
that.
we sure we're competitive on the defensive side of the football with him healthy?
No, but I know how bad it can get without him.
100%.
So I don't know. We'll see what the Bengals can muster up, but it better be an effective game, and you can beat the Carolina Panthers. I don't care who's on the field. You should be able to beat the Carolina Panthers.
We should be able to beat the Panthers with like a C+ game.
Yeah.
Last year, this Bengals team between the 20s obviously got picked apart. You
Yeah.
could run all over them, you could pass all over them, but that bend don't break defense, again, one of the best scoring defenses in the NFL last year. I remember anytime we'd have Jay Morrison on or any Bengals reporter on, we'd question about the horrific defensive stats, but overall, at the end of the day, it may be uncomfortable to watch, but when you're forcing teams to, holding a team to a field goal as they march down the field at ease to get into the red zone, that's a win. We just haven't. That has to be something that they get back to, because I don't think you're going to fix the defense to the point to where you're shutting teams down between the 20s. But if you can get back to that bend don't break, like, hey, you may be able to move the ball on us, but we have to find a way to keep teams from punching the ball into the end zone.
Yep.
That was just too easy for the Commanders this past Monday night.
Just let them
no
kick
doubt
field
about it.
goals. Just let them go down and kick a bunch of field goals. If you have Joe Burrow, you can score touchdowns. Touchdowns beat field goals, and that's how we win games. That's it.
Simple. It's an easy
Would like
game.
It's easy. Well, also, you can't have him milk the entire clock.
Speaking of clock, we have about 6 minutes, so Casey, make sure you keep it quick. What you got?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
I love you, Casey. I swear to God, no one thought that when you said that earlier, just to be clear. But no, your thoughts.
This team should be able to beat the Carolina Panthers. Even without Joe Mixon, who had a great game last time they went up against each other. Both teams are different now. It's been a couple years, obviously. But Joe Burrow in this offense, like I said before, even without Jamar Chase, should be able to move this ball up and down the field. You're not going up against a top-tier defense. You're not going up against a top-tier offense either. And it's a team that's also a little banged up too. It's not like they're going into this game fully healthy, ready to roll either. So I think that I'm confident in the team getting a win. I just don't know how it looks, because part of me wants to think that the Commanders' offense was really, really good, and because of that wrinkle, the added wrinkle of being able to run with the quarterback, those quarterback read options that we just struggled with all game long. I think that will give us a slight edge over the Panthers because you're not having to defend that part of Andy Dalton's game. Clearly, you're not going to have to worry about him scrambling and running around, much like Jaden Daniels did. So I think they're going to be able to stop them from being able to run the ball. I think they're going to go out and trying to stop the run, and they're going to try to make Andy Dalton beat them. And I think we know what that looks like when Andy Dalton is forced to try to beat someone. It doesn't always end up pretty. I think he's going to maybe throw an interception or two. And we'll get back to normal Bengals football where we're a bend, don't break defense, and we score a lot of touchdowns.
But have you considered that this is Andy Dalton 3.0? And maybe he can beat you.
Is this
because Andy Dalton 1.0 in Cincinnati didn't work when you made him beat you.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton 2.0, the travel around journeyman backup, obviously wasn't going to beat you when you made him, throw the ball a bunch during the game. But Andy Dalton 3.0, the Carolina Panthers starting quarterback, that's a scary guy.
Yeah. What year is he in?
He's on pace for what?
What year is he in?
360 times 17. It's a pretty great year.
That is. How many? Has he been in the league 16 years? 15 years?
Sorry?
12? 10 years?
14-year bump.
Year 14 bump, yeah.
14?
That red hair is going to be turning a little white here before too long.
God, he's been in the league a long time.
I love
if
Andy,
you
man.
if you let Miles Sanders torch you this week, we have problems. So
In 2021, one of my friends said Miles Sanders was going to go 1,000 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving yards. He did not have 1,000 total yards, so shout out Josh.
The one
Shout
thing
out to Josh.
The Eagles have been pretty good at moving on from guys at the exact
Oh,
right
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
That's an example right there. 'Cause
DeAndre Swift stinks.
Eagles fans were furious about
Really bad.
moving on from him.
You see they're benching him? Bears are benching DeAndre Swift.
Are they really?
Yeah, Roshan
No.
Johnson's going to get the bulk carries this week.
No.
Great for Roshan Johnson dynasty owners, me.
That's the worst news you can tell Elliot on his birthday.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. We'll step away for a few moments. I know we got a super chat a little bit ago. Go ahead and read the super chat. We'll use that as our tease, Casey. I know I just threw that at you. But we have a super chat that will set us up for our next conversation. We're going to talk a little Reds and what kind of happened last night. The Reds are out of the playoffs. I can't believe there's something that happened interesting in the Reds game last night, but that's where we're at. What's the super chat that we got?
Super chat from Big C, a $10 super chat. A little behind on the live, but what are your thoughts about the bunt to break the bullpen perfect game? Can't believe we get slandered for not only trying to win a game down 2 runs. Wild.
That is wild, and that had everyone talking last night. You never realize how many people are watching a bad Reds team until something like that happens, and then everyone has an opinion on it, and we all have an opinion on it, and that's what we have coming up for you next. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.
It does.
All right, and we are back Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett.
It's time for the Reds.
I thought it was going to be time for pizza.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pizza time.
It's a pizza time.
Hey, Ray, can we just cool it? Can we calm down?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
wait,
can
no, that's
calm down.
Elliot. It's birthday Elliot. That's not Ray Romano.
It's Ray Romano's birthday.
It's Ray Romano.
Let's see when Ray Romano.
Do you ever think about, like, if someone's listening to the show for the first time,
Ray Romano?
what are you talking about Ray Romano for?
Yeah, so if
And then
you're
they hear
listen-
that and
you're
they
right.
say, what is that?
So if you're listening for the first time, I'm really, really stupid, and I do a really bad Ray Romano impression.
But it's not even a Ray Romano impression.
And the joke is that it's such a bad impression. It's just basically that I know Ray Romano's Italian, so I do a bad Italian accent.
December 21st, so coming up.
Okay.
We'll have to
Closer
celebrate.
than it is further.
It is closer than it is further.
Closer than it is further. Do you want me to do headlines now, too? Because it's
No.
kind of... Or do you want me to wait for that?
We're going to wait.
Okay.
We're gonna wait.
Sorry, guy.
We're going to wait.
Sorry, guy.
I mean, did you not listen to that great tease?
We teased it.
Well, I was just going to do... Because the Reds are in the headlines. Do you want me to do the
When
Reds
are you going to
portion?
learn that you don't have to put the Reds in the headlines because we're going to talk about that?
I know, but that's how I've always typed it. So
Because
I
now
always-
we've taken away his Reds and his Jamar Chase shoulder.
There's no other headlines.
So I've got no other headlines. But whatever. Okay. So Big C asked what our thoughts on the bunting for a base hit when the other team has 7 different pitchers throwing for a...
Set the stage. What happened last night for what? Like that. So he asked that question about that bunt, but like set the stage. What happened last night that led to this major hot topic, hot take galore that came from last night's Reds Guardians game? A very intriguing game. One team's clinched the playoffs, has nothing more to play for. The other team's out of the playoffs. They have no manager, but somehow something interesting happened last night.
So they played a game last night, the finale, the season finale of the Ohio Cup. I don't think the Reds have won a game in this series, but good for them. The final score was 5-2. The Guardians won it on a Jose Ramirez home run. But before that,
He's going to get 40-40, by the way.
Yeah, well, he might. I think he's three away.
38-40.
They're really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the Guardians are up 2-0. The Reds hadn't had a base runner for 6 innings. We get to the 7th. TJ Friedl leads off the inning with a bunt base hit. The bunt base hit breaks up a perfect game. Now, normally, if you do this, it's somewhere in the unwritten rules that if you try to get on base via the bunt during a perfect game, it's frowned upon. People don't like that. The baseball world doesn't like that. My argument against it is if you have 5 pitchers, Andrew Walters, Eric Sabrowski, Cade Smith, Eli Morgan, Tim Herron, if you have 5 pitchers throwing a combined perfect game towards the last couple games of the season, when your team's already clinched the playoffs, drink your champagne and leave the rest of us alone. Please. Drink the champagne, go in the dugout, go party.
Put your shirts on.
Wear your stupid Cincinnati is Kentucky shirts. That was photoshopped. Please wear those shirts and leave the rest of us alone. TJ Friedl tried to get on base and win a baseball game, which is his job. And the Guardians fans and everybody in their precious little Twitter account, they got really frustrated. Well, you can't do that. It's in the unwritten rules. If it was a rule, they would have written it. But it's not. I have no issue. I'd have more of an issue with this if this was in March or April or May and a team has one pitcher throwing a perfect game and somebody does this. But if it's a close game, I don't really care. Let them. They're trying to win. If our best chance to win is to get on base via bunt, then stop the bunt.
Yeah.
Have a first baseman and third baseman play in. You know TJ Friedl's able to do that. I don't know why people get so upset at teams trying to win. The Cincinnati Reds right now, their only job is to try to play spoiler in some sort of fashion. If we're trying to spoil a perfect game, that's our mission this season. We can't make the playoffs. We're not really playing for anything, but try to win baseball games. It was Freddie's second game as manager? Try to win a game for Freddie B.
Terrible lineup, Freddie.
Well, we don't judge the lineups anymore.
Well, if we're going to make fun of every manager, we have to get on
You're right.
Freddie, too, before he's gone.
You're right.
We only have about 5 games. It's
true. We only have 3 games left now, Freddie, so get used to it. But no, I think this is the dumbest argument in sports. I think this is stupid. I think when the other team's up by 40 runs on you and you put in a position player and it's a 3-0 count, if your guy wants to hit a home run off this guy, hit a home run. I don't like the unwritten rules. I don't care for the unwritten rules. Just don't be a weirdo. Don't be a loser. Don't be a grouch. That's all there is to it. I have no issue with TJ Friedl dropping a bunt trying to win a baseball game, which, by the way, he then did score that hit. So the bunt was productive.
It's the 7th inning of a 2-run baseball game late in the season. I know the Reds are out of it, but you still want to win games. TJ Friedl lays down a bunt, gets on base, and scores to cut it to a 1-run game in the 7th inning.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? Like, there's a couple things that would make me feel differently about this, and one of them is if it was one pitcher. If the starting pitcher was in the game still, and you're in the 7th inning, I know that's going back on what I just said, where you're just trying to win games, but to lay down a bunt in a true perfect game in the 7th inning of the starting pitcher, I don't know how I would feel about that. Or if it was a blowout. If the Guardians were up 10-0 in the 7th inning, and TJ Friedl lays down a bunt to break up a perfect game with one pitcher, probably don't feel great about that because who cares? In this situation, it's exactly what you should do.
I agree. I just don't get the argument against it. If you want to say if your team's up 10-0, maybe don't lay down a bunt, but you're trying to get on base. You don't just quit. The Reds are out of the playoffs. We get it. You're in, Cleveland. Good for you. Good for the entire city of Cleveland. I'm sure you'll win it all.
Should the Reds players have just stood up there and not swung?
I guess
that's the perfect game.
I guess that's the goal. It's just like
don't 9 outs without us taking the bat off our shoulder.
Just swing away at every bad pitch and let us have this complete perfect game with 9 different pitchers. No, not going to happen.
Yeah, this unwritten rule is probably one of the silliest to me out of them all. I mean, imagine in basketball if a guy's going for 50, he's at 48 points and the time's running down and he tries to get that 50 and you just say, you know what? I'm just gonna let them get the layup
Yeah.
because that's why am I gonna try and stop them
they
or
did it for
whatever?
Kobe.
And they do that. I mean, that is like that's the NBA defense right now. But no, like this is one of the silly. Again, sometimes baseball, with all the progressive changes that it has made and how different the game looks now, sometimes you're just reminded how dumb some of these old school rules are. I think this one is probably one of the silliest. Absolutely silliest. I don't care. Look, the Reds are one of the worst offensive teams in baseball. So if a bunt can get them on base, I have no problem with it. Do what you got to do. Don't care about the Guardians' feelings. I can't wait to watch them lose in the playoffs. I absolutely despise the Cleveland Guardians. In fact, I hope. I don't know what I want more.
You want them to win a couple series.
To get to the World Series and get
Yeah.
swept, or to just get knocked out right away by the Tigers or the Astros. But either way.
Root for them to 3-1 it again.
What's that?
Get up 3-1 and blow it again.
I mean, dude, that was pretty sweet, though. I did enjoy. But see, back then I didn't dislike them as much as I do right now.
People don't talk enough about how the Cleveland Indians / Guardians. Well, it was Indians at that point, so I'll just say
It was the Indians. They were the Indians.
The Cleveland Indians in that blowing a 3-1 lead in that World Series, they completely avoided any kind of hate for it because the Cavs just came back from 3-1 against the Warriors. No one ever talks about them blowing that series, and I think it was because the Cubs breaking that drought was the main takeaway from that championship. But to blow a 3-1 series lead after taking the first 3-1 series lead and talking about it for a whole summer is just crazy.
Yeah, Golden State, they still haven't lived that down.
Oh, no.
From the finals many moons. Coincidentally, I think that it was that year.
Yeah,
We're
it was
talking
same year.
about is the same 3-1 that you just mentioned. So
Also, is the Cincinnati is Kentucky thing, is that an insult? Is that like
there's so many other things to make fun of the Reds for.
I love
so many
Kentucky.
things. I don't
Like-
understand. I don't understand
about-
the insult.
How about T-shirts that say "Your owner's Bob Castellini"? How about that? Like, that's
much-
a good one.
I have one with Bob's name on it.
How about where are you gonna go?
It says sell the team right on
How
top.
about a shirt that says "Where are you gonna go"?
yeah.
Yeah.
Something like "Where's your manager?" Something. There were so many things, and they
What
went with
about 4
Cincinnati.
playoff appearances in 30 years?
Yeah, we could do a better job trolling our team than they can.
Look,
Correct.
I've always said I would rather the Reds go 4-158 than 158-4, and you just win those 4 against the wretched Guardians. So, it's tough to see them lose the Ohio Cup again,
Yep.
and the
Was it?
Guardians celebrate like that. Yeah, it was really tough.
The Ohio Cup's a tough one for you.
It's the only thing I care about.
Yeah.
Going into
I
the
wake
season.
up in the morning and I think about the 2 separate 2-game series with the Guardians
With about 3 months in between.
with 3 months in between. And whoever brings home that Ohio Cup, it really makes or breaks my year.
That one guy you interviewed on the street downtown that thought the Ohio Cup was the World Series, he was just speaking from his heart.
That's right.
Yeah, because
So,
it is.
it is
And
the
the
World
Guardians
Series.
proved
It
that
is the
when
World
they won.
Series.
It
It's
is-
the
they celebrated like they won the World Series.
Yeah, it's the Battle of Ohio and Kentucky.
Yeah, and
That's right.
the Photoshop that was done for those shirts too. I mean,
Very
I'm
good
so
Photoshop.
glad.
I'll credit the guy who did that because I
gal.
got bought in on it.
Yeah.
Guy or gal, you never know.
Guy or
You never
gal,
know.
person,
but
human.
Kudos to the organization
Human
that they'll spend more money on a graphic designer than they will on their roster for baseball. So kudos to them for doing that. But yes, I'm the biggest Astros fan or the biggest Tigers fan, the biggest Yankees fan, the biggest whatever team. If they are fortunate enough to get to the World Series that they face, I'm gonna be cheering hard. I'm gonna get a jersey or a shirt for every team that they run into. Hopefully, I just have to buy one shirt.
I like that.
At the end of the day, maybe I might I might get Photoshop and just make up my
You
own.
should just
shirt.
put all the just add an iron-on logo for every team they play, like as they go on if they win.
There you go. We'll come up with something.
To end the show, can we play, like, at the end of the show, can we play that song they made about Cleveland? You know what I'm talking about?
Cleveland rocks.
Cleveland Rocks.
It's a great song. Probably
I
can't
love
play
that.
it
The
on
Drew
YouTube.
Carey show.
There's not curse words in that one, is there?
It's copyrighted.
Is it?
Cleveland rocks.
You're talking about the one where at least we're not Detroit? You're talking about that
What is
one?
that?
Oh, I thought you meant the Drew Carey
I thought you
show
were talking about
introduction.
the actual song.
No. There's Welcome to Cleveland. Colin Will got it. There's a video called Welcome to Cleveland where they just make fun of the city of Cleveland. In fact, I'll do that. I'll find that link and we'll play that at the end of the show.
Me and
After
Reed
the,
agree. Cincinnati and Kentucky has Burrowhead vibes. I agree. I agree.
That's
with
fair.
that one.
That's fair.
But no, did I age myself with the Drew Carey reference? Did
No.
you guys watch the Drew Carey show? Okay,
No,
but I love the Drew
but-
Carey show. Oh yeah, I love the Drew Carey show.
I know
not
about
not
it.
the Price is Right, not that show. The Drew Carey show, but nonetheless. Are you looking it up?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it right now.
While you're doing that, actually, no, I want you to get to that because I want to ask one more Reds thing before we wrap it up because we've got to get to your headlines.
Oh, yeah.
You're
we gotta
very
get to the
impatient
headlines.
with these
Please.
headlines.
Please get to the headlines. I found the video, so I'll copy the link here. It's a YouTube video. I'll copy this link,
Nice.
and we'll end the show with it. We're not going to do it right now,
Fair enough.
but I got it. All
That way,
right.
if it kicks us off for copyright,
I'll
at
DM it
least
to
the show's
Casey,
done.
and we'll see if that works that way. But if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
So Yesterday we talked about the Jonathan India comments, basically kind of calling out the front office for the Reds, and that clip took off last night. Todd Frazier retweeted it, correct? Like,
I believe so.
I know that Zach Kozart, like some others, liked it. Like, it's a lot of former Reds are keeping an eye on what's kind of going on right now in Cincinnati. A lot of former Reds who didn't really speak up, who not, one way or another, who all there's a lot of athletes out there, a lot of baseball players that have the same opinion of the Reds that we do at times, and that even Jonathan India kind of put out there yesterday. That took off. Is it a coincidence? Then we said yesterday that the front office probably is not happy, that the front office is not happy with Jonathan India's comments, basically calling him out for not doing enough. Tired of chasing 500 and hoping to sneak into the playoffs, but you just putting the whole organization on blast, saying that he is a player on this team that has put in his blood, sweat, and tears to this organization. He's tired of that. He wants the team to do more. We said yesterday, Elliot, that, hey, the front office probably not happy with that. Is it a coincidence that you talked about the lineup for Benavidez earlier? Is it a coincidence that he was out of the lineup, or is it the fact that he took a fastball to the head the night before?
I think it was the fastball to the head. I think he was dealing with concussion symptoms. Maybe. I don't want to speak.
That's why I said all that stuff?
I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
No, that's not why I said all that. I'm just saying they were probably concerned about the health and well-being of our superstar and leader, Jonathan India. I think that was what was going on. I don't think it correlated. But nonetheless, it is certainly, I guess, a talking point.
Imagine if Joey Votto would have said those things back in the day.
Probably would have said him on TikTok.
That would have proved to you that he would have wanted to win, huh?
I feel like Jonathan India really wants to win. I feel like I've been vindicated slightly with this. I don't want to go into it too much, but I'm just saying this kind of proved my point.
I don't think this is.
Here's my argument. Here's my argument against it. Do you think being a Hall of Famer and being better than every other player on your team for 20 years, do you think that's enough?
No, I think a guy that got paid an absolute lot of money and was a part of a lot of losing and always just seemed to be content one way or another. I'm watching a guy that's constantly being put on or being rumored to be traded. I'm watching a guy that, has done everything that's been asked of him. I know that some are down on his performance from time to time, but he's out there. He's a clubhouse leader, and he's calling out the front office saying, hey, what are we doing? He's not content with just, well, this is what we do in Cincinnati. We lose, we'll try harder next year. No, he's pissed off. He's tired of it. I'm just saying, I think that would have gone a long way having everything you just said, having a guy that was as good as he was, getting paid as much as he was, as much as an impact. Look, we saw the impact on social media with what Jonathan India said. Jonathan India is not Joey Votto. Jonathan India is a leader. But if Jonathan India said that and it made that much a connection with the fan base, imagine what would happen if a star player like a Joey Votto would have done the same thing. That was my point all along back when we had those conversations. The TikTok thing was maybe a little... I
think the TikTok thing was reaching there.
I don't
talk radio guy.
I don't.
I think it was reaching in the middle of the summer. That's what I think.
But hey, guys, I'm really sorry. I'm talking a lot. We need to go to break. I pulled a Casey.
Yeah.
Don't you hate when people pull a Casey?
I do that. I do hate that.
Talking on talk shows is the worst.
The worst. More of Off the Bench when we come back. Headlines.
We're going to lead off with headlines?
We're going to lead off hour number 2 with headlines.
Maybe not.
Yeah. I'm not in my lineup. We'll be right back.
Yes.
All right, welcome back Off the Bench. Presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here on a Thursday. We got some college football stuff coming up around the corner. College football happened last weekend. We haven't referenced any of it. Will you turn that off? What is
working on it?
Be a professional. My gosh. Just what was that?
I don't know.
But while Jacob is distracted by watching whatever he's watching on his laptop, let's set up Elliot for the most anticipated segment of the day.
Ooh.
Elliot's Headlines.
Elliot loves 3 things: Joey Votto, David Bell, and leading off the bench with top headlines.
Okay. Welcome on in, everybody. Woo! The Reds, as I mentioned before, I'm going to keep reading it. I don't know why we changed that up at all. So here we go. The Reds get swept by the Guardians. Game 4 of the Ohio Cup. Jose Ramirez hit a 3-run shot in the 8th to win the game. The Guardians pitching staff, again, perfect game through 6. TJ Friedel broke it up.
We talked about that already.
I refuse to deviate from my script.
Why did you put that?
I refuse to deviate from my script.
One of these days you'll learn how the show works.
Ellie De La Cruz went to... The whole point of headlines is that they lead off the show.
But they're not necessary.
They lead off the show.
But people can just open their phone and look at the box score. We can talk about the game.
Before we do anything, we lead off the show. Well, but not everybody looks at the box score. That's why there's still people who do the scores for radio and everything like that, because people don't know yet. Maybe they don't have technology. Maybe
Open a newspaper.
That's okay. There's not really any newspapers. Let me continue.
What's the weather?
Ellie De La Cruz went 2 for 4. Jacob Junis, 5 innings, gave up 2 earned runs, striking out 3. It might be his final start as a Cincinnati Red. The Reds start their final series of the season tomorrow afternoon in Chicago for a 2:20 first pitch. Starter's not announced yet. It'll probably be a reliever. Around the league, the Dodgers, they hang on to beat the Padres and extend their divisional lead to 3 games. They can clinch the division with a win today. But Jacob and I were talking about it before the show. If the Padres win and win out, and Dodgers do not do that, they have a chance. So the Rangers, they win the penultimate game at the Coliseum last night, 5-1. The last baseball game ever played in Oakland takes place this afternoon at 3:37. The very last game. I think it'll be a pretty crazy game. I don't know what's going to go on in that. I don't know what type of protest the fans will do, but I'm sure it'll be very.
Will there be a big
They
crowd?
were taking the dirt yesterday.
I don't know if you saw this clip, but the fans were lining up on the sidelines. They had a guy with a shovel just putting the dirt from the stadium into their bottles.
I wasn't sure.
Pretty cool.
Do you think will the team have like a lot of security on site?
Yeah.
Like this is kind of a weird.
They're going to spend
thing.
more on security for this game than they have on that roster in years.
100%.
Invalid. But so like I'm curious what ticket sales are like for that game. I'm just
Sellout. I
I'm
believe
curious.
it's a sellout.
That stuff is like when the Rams left St. Louis. Like anytime I see a city lose its team, I'm a fan of the Browns. I've seen it happen, but that's the worst. It really is, and that,
terrible.
I know the front office, they like to turn it on the fans. Well, if you show up to games and you blah, blah, whatever, but it's like you got to give them a reason to. This stuff does stink when it comes to sports. We'll forget about it 5-6 years from now, but like as of
I
right
don't
now,
know about this one. This one we might not.
This isn't like the Arizona Coyotes, and no disrespect, but I mean that franchise, nobody cared, nobody really wanted. It was an expansion team, right?
Yeah.
So nobody was really in on
played
the
at a
Arizona.
college.
They played at a college. Nobody was in on the Arizona Coyotes.
St. Louis was in a dire straits at that point when they left. San Diego was pretty bad, and I still think they get some flack for that.
And to be clear, some people still care about the Arizona Coyotes. I don't mean to say no fans cared about that.
I'm comfortable saying there's no fans that care.
Well, there was some fans, and for those, I'm very sorry because I don't want my teams to leave me either.
No, that's fair.
But I do think it's pathetic that there are owners in sports that care so little about the team that they own.
Yeah.
Where this can happen, and it's clear Mr. Fisher and the athletics organization and those higher up, they didn't care enough to save the team and save it for the city of Oakland.
This move's going to get louder in the next few years as well as they play in a high school park.
that's the most embarrassing part about all of
Yes.
this. It's one thing if you moved it and you had the stadium already and you just transitioned to the new one, but this like bouncing around and like I think that's a bad look for baseball. That's where baseball should step in and be like, hey, we're fine with you relocating. You have that right as an owner, but not having the place in place already is just kind of wild. Just kind of wild to me.
I just think there should be some sort of regulation when you own a baseball or own a sports franchise.
Oh, no doubt.
I think there needs to be that. You can't have, outwardly significantly less money than every other owner. I think you have to have production. I think you have to show product on the field that you're able to be a good owner. This is such a bad situation where it makes me really just feel horrible about the world of sports because that shouldn't happen to those people, those fans that grew up there. And for the baseball world, the Oakland Athletics are a historic franchise. Yeah. It makes me a little scared about what could happen to the Cincinnati Reds. Right? Could the Castellinis just ship us out? I don't know. I don't know what can happen. It seems like owners get to do whatever they want and they don't have any accountability. So I thought his letter that he wrote, I thought that was half-assed. I thought it was terrible. And we'll see. 3:37, the final game ever in Oakland. So moving on from that headline, we go to the Diamondbacks. They cruise past the Giants 8-2. They keep possession of their final wild card spot. The Cardinals beat the Rockies 5-2. Charlie Blackmon plays his final game in Colorado this afternoon, a legend. I don't know if anybody knows the tradition of what Charlie Blackmon does at the plate, but he sings Your Love, I think, by the outfield. Josie's on a vacation far away. He plays that song every single at-bat. And whenever you say, tonight, the whole crowd sings that part. And last night, I think there was a mound visit, and they played the extended version. You got to hear the crowd get really loud for it. So good for Charlie Blackmon. I thought he had a hell of a career. He was one of my favorite players. So
got kicked out of a Reds game for heckling Charlie Blackmon in center field one time.
Did you really?
Yeah, sophomore year in high school.
How about that? Good for you, bud. The White Sox, they walk off the Angels. Andrew Benintendi prevents history from becoming reality last night again. I think that they won the series against the Angels, so we got to move. They move on. They survive in advance.
What if they win out?
Today, they play again today. They got 4 games left. We'll see if they can do it. The Twins, they take care of the Marlins 8-3 to end their 3-game losing streak. Skip Schumacher let the Miami Marlins have 4 errors in that game.
I like that.
You like that?
That was good.
Did he hold him accountable?
I don't know.
How was his post-game press conference?
Did he yell at him?
It's hard to hold a team full of bad players accountable, so we'll see.
Interesting.
The Red
That
Sox.
is very interesting.
The Red Sox were eliminated from the postseason with a loss last night to Toronto. The Yankees, they fell to the Orioles. Aaron Judge hit another home run. Tigers, they keep winning. Their postseason is all but clinched. I don't know when the clinched number is or when that would be. Maybe today. I don't know. But they've won again. The final 2 games of the Mets-Braves series has been postponed due to Hurricane Helene. Massive playoff implications there. It'll be a doubleheader right before the playoffs to see who goes to the playoffs. That'll be kind of wild. I think the Mets, if I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure the Mets have it unless they lose the other series they're playing here. I got to look because I don't know enough. I know the Braves are still more than in it if they win a couple games here because I think they're a game now back behind the Arizona Diamondbacks. Pretty sure that's accurate. Yeah, so the Arizona Diamondbacks have a 1-game lead, and I believe the Mets have a 1.5-game lead, if I'm counting that right, or maybe just a 2-game lead. I don't know, 1.5 or 2-game lead. So it's anybody's game. So we'll see what happens there. WNBA, the Fever, they covered the spread last night against the Sun, but are unfortunately eliminated from the playoffs. Caitlin Clark, 25 points, 6 boards, 9 assists, a block, and a steal. Pretty solid game. I think she got a fan removed from the stadium. I was watching the end of that game.
Very LeBron-esque. I loved it.
She was removing a fan from the stadium for heckling. I don't fully understand what happened, but I did watch the end of the game. I got to see the send-off there. So good for Caitlin Clark. A hell of a season. Other news, other outside sports news. Derrick Rose, he has announced his retirement from the NBA after 16 seasons. 16 seasons. Hopefully he retires a Bull. That would be pretty cool. And finally, UNLV didn't just lose their quarterback, but they lost their running back as well. Michael Allen has entered the transfer portal. Is that right? Is he entering the transfer portal, or is he just out?
You can.
Okay.
So he's
sorry.
redshirting. He's going to enter the transfer portal again next year without losing that eligibility. There was another college football player that entered the transfer portal, and probably the biggest news so far, even bigger than Matthew Saluka, who we talked about yesterday, UNLV's quarterback, USC D lineman Bear Alexander plans to redshirt for the remainder of the season and enter the transfer portal after this season. In February of 2021, Alexander committed to Georgia. In June of 2021, he decommitted from Georgia.
Okay.
In October of 2021, he recommitted to Georgia. In January of 2022, he enrolled at Georgia. In April of 2023, he entered the portal and announced his commitment to USC. And then today, he redshirted and with intentions to enter the transfer portal after the season. Another fun fact about Bear Alexander, he attended 4 high schools in 4 years.
Okay.
So this is a guy who's really committed to his team and his teammates, and I'm sure there's going to be a long, long line for this quitter when he's in the transfer portal after the season. Look,
can I jump in there real quick?
It's about the camaraderie. Shout out
with
Sabrina
that,
Carpenter.
Like, because people get so caught up in I'm for players being able to, like, we could jump college to college, and I'm for that, but, like, there is a certain point, like, if you're going to college to play football, like, that technically, especially now if you're getting paid, that is your job.
Yeah.
When you enter the real world and you start getting interviewed for jobs, they're going to look at your work history, and then, they'll notice, hey, I've noticed, you've had a lot of jobs. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
When you've had a lot of jobs in the real world, depending on, like, how old you are, especially, but we're talking about young adults here, right? If you have a lot of jobs, people are going to start questioning if you have loyalty issues or if you can commitment issues. So I know we do this thing where we tell everyone they're outdated if they think that players shouldn't be moving as often as they do, but sometimes this is now no longer just an amateur game. This is a job. These guys are getting paid a lot of money now to do this. So when you're constantly jumping, and you see it at high school now, when you're constantly jumping from team to team in high school, some of that's parent stuff too, but in college, when you're jumping from team to team to team, there has to be a point where, all right, you want to be an adult and you want to say that this is your job. You have to look at that. I didn't realize it was that much.
Oh yeah.
Moving around. You got to say, hey, that's not a good thing. You do at some point have to lay down roots a little bit and try to maximize your opportunity at that particular space. I know for us, We can't go apply for jobs and sit down in an interview and have a bunch of jobs on our resume, and that be a good thing to recruiters out there. It's the same thing in sports. So I thought that was interesting when you brought that up.
The UNLV quarterback situation was so interesting because of the NIL dispute.
Yep.
And how the conversation revolves around whether or not he was paid money that he was promised. The UNLV running back that you named and Bear Alexander's situation at USC are both guys redshirting because they didn't get enough playing time in the first 3 weeks. These are guys that are just straight up quitting on their team. Before the season, Bear Alexander, on the new USC defensive coordinator, he said, "It's demon time. The Big Ten doesn't know what's coming. Coach Henry is going to unleash a monster." Bear Alexander didn't make it to Big Ten play. It's just a joke. I don't understand how these guys think it's okay to just pack it up because you didn't get the playing time you wanted. If you're getting cut on contracts or pay or anything like that, sure, let's have that conversation on a case-by-case basis. But to just redshirt and save a season in your back pocket because you don't like the way your team looks, or you don't like the way your system's being run, or you don't like the amount of snaps you're getting, I think that's just an absolutely terrible precedent to set for college sports. We were worried about bowl game opt-outs, and now guys are just opting out of the entire season. It's crazy.
And it's one thing to leave at the end of the season, but like to leave just straight up quit because by the way, leaving at the end of the season, I wouldn't classify as quitting, but literally throwing a temper tantrum in the middle of a season because you're not getting what you want, that's quitting. That's quitting. I mean, at the end of the day. So, and it's not like they're sitting out. I could see a player saying, "Hey, I'm not showing up to practice. I'm not doing." At that point, you make it easy for the team to cut you. And if that's the case, hey, why am I going to continue to show up to practice and all this stuff? I'm sitting out until I get what I want, until you give me what I want.
Yeah.
Still, people might criticize it, but again, we do that in the pros. And that's what this technically is at this point. But they're just straight up quitting. Jamar Chase, all right, you didn't give me my money. I'm just quitting. I'm no longer a Bengal. I'm not playing anymore. I'm just no longer. That's quitting. He didn't quit. He was just using his leverage. That's what these athletes need to start doing too. But this is just straight up quitting at the end of the day. So there you go. We hijacked your. Did we get through all your?
I have one more. I have one fun one, but we'll push that to the. It's regarding the next manager of the Cincinnati Reds.
Ooh.
I saw.
Is it who I think it is?
I saw this trending yesterday from our good friend Mark Sheldon.
He's a fun one.
I saw this option. We can discuss it.
Mark Sheldon. Shout out to Mark Sheldon. We had him on one time.
We did.
Many, many moons ago. We'll be right back. More Off the Bench. Next.
Yeah.
All right, guys, it's that time. Time to pay the bills around here, do some housekeeping items. Pawnee Water. You know and love it. The water bottle here, sponsored. Yeah, water bottle sponsor. Pawnee Water. PAHHNI water.com.
Throw it over here.
You want it over here?
This game
not
scares me
again.
every time.
You want this?
Yeah.
I forgot about that yesterday. Nice,
Ooh.
dude. Cam Taylor-Britt stuff right there.
2 for 2. We'll see how many days we can get that in a row. Now I'm going to throw it back to you.
And you're going to sail
This
it
is
again.
the worst one.
Wow.
Woo!
2 hands. Very fundamental.
And he was working the cameras.
Very
and
fundamental.
he was working the cameras.
Yeah. 2 hands, very fundamental. The next Reds manager is going to be very pleased with you. He won't have to worry about holding you accountable.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. Well, it's because
Probably
I
too
learned
focused
at
on
such a
playing
young
the
age how to
game.
actually, play baseball.
There you go.
guess. So.
Yeah.
Are we still doing the Pawnee Water bit?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
I don't know. I'm lost now.
They don't have rocks.
They don't have rocks. It's just water. Look at the ingredients right there. Just as water. Made with natural limestone filtration, though. It's one of the best, healthiest alkaline waters out there. You can see that the pH level is at an 8. It's not a 7. It's not a 9. It's at a perfect 8. And, I love Pawnee Water. It's one of the smoothest waters out there because, again, has no rocks in it.
Not even one.
Not even one.
Yeah.
Not even one. The Bengals Report was proudly sponsored by Encore Technologies. At Encore, they deliver cutting-edge IT solutions for a data-driven world. From mobile computing and desktop support to advanced data center solutions, they help businesses enhance efficiency and...
PRODUCTIVITY.
Productivity.
That's right, Jimbos.
I think I spelled that right.
Visit encore.tech where your path to innovation begins. Game time. What time is it? It's game time. It's time for the Game Time app. Sponsorship read. It is one of the best ticketing apps out there, guys. I have used it all summer long. I've used it looking for Bengals tickets. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to go to some of these Bengals games, but I know I will be using Game Time to get these Bengals tickets because they have the lowest prices guaranteed. Pricing's all up front. It's just 2 simple clicks. You can see exactly where you're sitting at. They've got different features on their app, like Game Time pick filters. That kind of helps you get all the fluff out of there and see exactly what you're looking for in terms of seating and pricing. They have super deals. There's a lot of great deals that come around. They're the hot deals that you see, and they're for incredible prices. Incredible prices. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it, fellas?
Game time.
Game time.
What time is it, fellas?
Game time.
Game time.
What time is it, fellas?
Let me check. I think it's game time.
Game time.
That's right. Game time. Other housekeeping items.
And it's pizza time.
It's pizza time.
Never gets
We will have dialed in right after the show. So please stick around for Tom and Luke Brenneman
yes, I'm
as
dialed
we get dialed in with you guys. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like button. Share this show with a friend. It helps us grow, helps us bring in more members like you. Thank you. And Jacob, you have Bengals.
I do.
You have your Bengals show later today.
I do. Chatterbox Bengals tonight, 7 p. on Chatterbox YouTube, live on Twitter as well, and then shortly after it'll be available in podcast form for you if you want it that way. So make sure you join Craig and I. We'll be talking about that Panthers game. One of these days, I'm going to talk about a win.
Yeah.
I don't know when it'll be. Hopefully Tuesday.
When
But,
we get the first win, hopefully it's this Sunday.
if we win this Sunday, I'm
Do
never
you
streaming
think?
a game again.
What if that would be funny?
I'm never streaming. I'm such bad luck if that happens.
What if we, for just one show, just sit in silence and just think
Soak it
about
all
the
in.
win?
What if we just watched it?
Yeah. That would be
Yeah,
good.
it'd be a good show.
That would be a great
It'd be
show.
Chatterbox Bengals tonight, 7 p.
Anything else, guys? Got any other things?
Like the stream,
Yep.
and that's it.
Like the stream. Oh, Bearcats. We also have Chatterbox Bearcats.
Ooh.
Right after Chatterbox Bengals.
Are they associated with us, or how does that work? Where do they do their show? Where do they do their show from?
Yes, they have the Chatterbox brand, but they are independently ran.
Yeah.
So
the tweet was that they're independently run.
Yeah, they do their own socials, they do their own streams and stuff like that. They just have
Fair
the
enough.
Chatterbox branding. Think of us like actually no free ads. So they're
Yeah,
just
I was gonna say,
they're just,
what's the comparison that's okay to use there?
yeah, I can't use any comparisons without giving out free advertisements.
Yeah, I should zip it.
But yes, we're good to come back now before I keep talking.
Chuck and Houdini, they're great.
Fun headline that I thought we probably shouldn't talk about on the radio, but I guess we can do here. 50 Cent is producing a Diddy documentary for Netflix. That'll go over all of his crimes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know you're not
Objectively,
wrestling
or-
fans, but is anyone interested? I'm watching that Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon
Ooh,
documentary.
No, I haven't seen that.
It's actually I'm
Is it
a
good?
couple in. It is really good. It is really good. But I don't know if it's good to people. If you don't like wrestling, I don't think you'll care too much. But I am curious for anyone out there who is watching it, what they think so far. I'm only 2 in. But so you said like a lot of those are getting no one's wasting time on just these 1 hour docs
Nope.
anymore. It's like they're gonna maximize it. They're gonna stretch it out.
Limited
get the
series and all that.
Yeah. But yeah, nonetheless, I'm good to go back. Anything else non-radio related?
No, I think
or
we're good.
approved, I should say.
I think we're good.
I think we're doing. I know we're doing right now. Contender pretender.
Ooh.
For the NFL. Then we got Jacob's top
Contender.
10 coming up. College football. Will the Bearcats crack the top 10? Let's find out.
No.
Well, tease.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. It's not a prediction. It's a spoiler. There you go. All right, what we got, Case? We coming back?
Yep, back to Radio Land.
All right, and we are back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Craig is asking Jacob a question in the chat that I actually have pulled up right now, ready to fire. So, Craig, thank you for that. Craig says, Tissa, did you see that Portnoy committed to paying NIL for Michigan to get a top 10 quarterback every year? I love this. I don't love Michigan. I hate Michigan, but I should say I love this. I love Portnoy. Fascinates me. So like I'm surprised it took him this long to get in on this. Portnoy comes out and says that Jacob, he is going to pay $3 million in NIL to get Michigan a elite quarterback every year. Every year, $3 million a year, he will make sure that Michigan has an elite quarterback. I mean, after watching Orgy play for a couple of weeks, I mean, I'm surprised it took him this long. Because like Michigan's defense, if they just have average offensive play, they're a top 10 team, no doubt about it. They are horrifically bad offensively, but very, very good defensively. We saw that against USC last week. But man, Dave Portnoy, if that works, are we going to start to see other, it's one thing right now for Texas to have Matthew McConaughey, do his all right stuff on the sideline. But eventually Texas fans might look at him and say, yeah, okay, cool movie star, but why don't you put your money where your mouth is? You say you're a big Texas fan. Why don't you pay for our, I think they're doing okay quarterback-wise.
Might have.
But you think he might have? Fair enough. But what do you think about this Dave Portnoy, $3 million in NIL yearly to make sure Michigan has an elite quarterback?
We saw this single donor stuff start to pop up a little bit more over the last 12 months or so with John Calipari going to Arkansas and those recruits being basically completely paid for by the Chicken Man, Tyson Chicken Nuggets. So yeah, this is definitely something that's going to happen in college sports. You're going to have major donors at universities giving significant amounts of money and asking to have complete control of where that money goes. Usually when you donate $1 million to a university, it goes to their NIL fund, if you're talking NIL, or it goes to their endowment if you're donating to the university. And then the university or the coaching staff or the foundation or whatever company or conglomerate you're donating to then disperses that funds as they see fit. I think as we see those single donor examples start to pop up more and more, these guys are going to want full control of where their money's going. If Portnoy's giving $3 million to Michigan's NIL collective, he doesn't want it going to 5 D linemen, 3 linebackers, a scout team quarterback, paying for this guy's food and this guy's gas and all that stuff. He wants that $3 million going to a quarterback. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not that's going to be allowed. As of now, you're not able to control donation destinations, basically. You have to donate to the foundation or to the university, and then they are in control of how that goes. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm sure there's people that donate to these schools and say, you give my money here, and they say, yes, sir, we'll do as you say. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen around college sports, but it is not allowed. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and it could change. The NIL is going to change drastically basically every single year, I think, as we progress through college football for the next decade or so, until they figure out a way to have some level of control, because they have none right now, as we see with these back alley deals, handshakes versus contracts, differences in what players think they're getting paid versus what schools think they're paying players. All that stuff is making a spotlight be shined on the NCAA as a whole right now, and they have to do a better job in managing this stuff. And I think letting single donors control where their money goes is a step in the wrong direction, if we're going to be completely honest, because then you just build a roster. It is a little bit refreshing to see someone with stupid amounts of money like that operate how I would operate with that much money. Because usually you see these guys, billionaires, and they don't do normal stuff. If I had that much money, if I had Bezos money, the first thing I would do is buy a sports team.
How many years before sports team or college sports teams, the football team, is completely separate from the university?
Under 5.
Under 5?
Yeah.
Before it becomes its own entity?
I think we're going to see schools license their university names to teams sooner rather than later.
I see. Because at some point, we're going to need a salary cap, too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's fine because it's funny to me. But I think it's strange that just the richest people in the world could technically control every aspect of college athletics right now. Hey, here's $20 million. Go build me the best team money can buy.
Right.
And it's just I don't know. Maybe that's how it's always been, roughly. It's not been like this. But it rubs me the wrong way a little bit.
So I just checked Dave Portnoy's net worth $100 million. So $3 million is just literally nothing to it. $3 million a year. And let me ask you, you donate
and $3 million a year is anything this side of Arch Manning. $3 million a year is Jalen Milroe, Carson Beck, Cam Ward. Like, he could do much less than $3 million a year and still get quarterbacks that are very, very good and can win a championship.
Yeah.
$3 million is top of the line.
Let me ask you, so you donate to collectives. Can you write that off at the end of the year?
I don't know.
Because if you can, that'd be pretty wild that Arch Manning is considered. I'm going to write off Arch Manning. Like, you donate to get Arch Manning. Hey, I'm writing off Arch Manning at the end of the year.
I don't donate $3 million, and I don't donate enough to look at the tax write-offs, if I'm being quite honest. But maybe I should.
That's just the fandom.
If it's a write-off, I'll donate a little more.
Well, I think if you donate to a school, if you're donating to the school itself, I think that's a write-off at the end of the year.
Anything so the government doesn't get their hands on my money.
Stay away. Stay away. All right, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. By the way, did you see the NCAA statement about the UNLV stuff yesterday? The NCAA comes out and says the NCAA fully supports college athletes profiting from their NIL, but unfortunately there is little oversight or accountability in the NIL space, and far too often promises made to student athletes are broken. Positive changes are underway at the NCAA to deliver more benefits to student athletes, but without clear legal authority granted by the courts or by Congress, the NCAA, conferences, and schools have limited authority to regulate third parties involved in NCAA transactions. That is Tim Buckley, again, NCAA Senior Vice President for External Affairs. Basically what he is saying is hey, what can we do? You guys are telling us we're powerless. We can't do anything, right? This is what you wanted. Go right on ahead. I feel like this is kind of the NCAA kind of saying, hey, don't blame us. You know, we try to put regulations in. You just didn't like our regulations. You're suing us for the Reggie Bush, you're suing us for the regulations that we tried putting in place. I'm not defending the NCAA. I'm just pointing out, I get the sense that they're basically pointing back at everyone saying, oh, now you want guardrails. Now you want rules. Now you want regulations. Why aren't there guardrails or rules or regulations? It's because it's very, very complicated. We're talking about state rules. We're talking about state laws. We're talking about NCAA. Everyone wants them to have these rules that they technically can't put down because of all the issues that are kind of, being spearheaded right now with NIL. I don't know. I got a kick out of that. That was kind of their little mocking way of saying, hey, we hate this too as much as you, but you've taken the power out of our hands. We can't do anything.
The NCAA is sitting here and acting like there's zero middle ground. And that's where I have an issue with the NCAA. They're saying, we gave you NIL. We gave you what you wanted. All these players are getting paid now, and we are sitting back and letting it happen.
Them, yeah.
And it's going incredibly poorly. No one asked for this. No one asked for the Wild West of pay for play and recruits getting $1 million to transfer while they're on another team's roster. No one asked for that. People asked for players to be compensated for the money that they're bringing in for these colleges on a yearly basis. These TV contracts are massive. These merch sales are massive. Until 4 years ago, you couldn't buy a college player's jersey. And they were selling them in bookstores without names on the back, and these kids weren't seeing $1. That was wrong.
100%.
But that doesn't make this the solution. And the NCAA is acting like there's only two options: $0 for the kids or zero parameters on NIL. And that's just not true. And that's why I'm really fed up with the NCAA. Because if instead of pushing back on NIL for so long and having a zero tolerance policy, if they would have worked with the schools and the players and the foundations and built this over time to have it work within their system, we wouldn't have a lot of these problems. But they didn't. They pushed back, and every little step schools and foundations and players tried to make, they tried to shut it down as soon as it happened, as soon as it progressed even a little bit. And now they're saying we just took ourselves completely out of it, let you run, and it went poorly. But that's not your job as the organization that's supposed to run college sports. Your job is not to let these schools, players, coaches, and foundations run wild and do whatever they want to do. Your job is to control part of it, be the bad guy in some situations, but ultimately stand up for the players. And the NCAA hasn't stood up for players in years.
Yeah.
Craig said state by state as to whether they can, whether they are tax deductible or not, as far as that goes. So, yeah, and with that too, and the problem is now it's the Wild Wild West. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? So now the schools that hate it, if they do try to regulate it, I don't think the schools want it regulated as much as what they are saying. I don't think Ohio State wants this regulated as much as they're saying. I don't think Alabama and the bigger schools, because right now they're like, no, this is kind of what we were doing under the table, and now we could just do it and not have to be as worried about it. So when Ryan Day and these others come out and say that, hey, someone needs to get control of this, I don't know if they mean that as much as what they're saying, because that makes their job harder. Now, the Cincinnatis of the world, the American Conference schools of the world, the other smaller schools, they're the ones that want this to be nipped in the bud, and they don't have the power or the say in this situation. To the NFL, back to the NFL we go. What's that?
Do you want to do the David Bell thing or the manager thing real quick?
Absolutely. I would love to.
We can go to the NFL if you want.
No.
I just wanted to do it real quick.
Do it real quick.
There's only 3 minutes left of this segment, so I was just going to do it real quick.
No, this is perfect. Then we'll set it up for the next one.
So Mark Sheldon, MLB.com, he wrote this article yesterday. I saw it September 25th, 2024. I was going over Reds Twitter a little bit. Who will be the Reds' next skipper? Here's a look at some options. So I'm going to read the names that he has here, and you just tell me if there's one that stands out. So we'll start with Terry Francona, a name we talked about. I think many Reds fans would like that. An old school manager who's had a history of winning. I think as long as he would be able to be healthy, and we hope that he's healthy, we would love that option here in Cincinnati. Skip Schumacher. Again, this isn't an option that I personally would like to see, but there's worse options than this. David Ross, another guy who's had a history of success in the league. Don Mattingly, why not? Don Mattingly's had success. Miguel Cairo knows the organization, had a successful short-term coaching record in Chicago. Freddie Benavides, an option I wouldn't like to see because I don't think hiring in-house would be the play. Barry Larkin.
They've gotten worse.
You know,
they've gotten worse since Benavides took
I
over.
want Benavides.
You want Benavides?
Long term.
Long term.
He's a vibes guy.
Yeah, he is. Barry Larkin. We know our takes on Barry Larkin. And finally, the last name that's on this list.
Do it.
Luke Maley.
Is he serious?
I don't know. Luke Maley. This says, currently Cincinnati's backup catcher and a Northern Kentucky native, Maley has been a clubhouse leader and often speaks to team issues. Perhaps he could be baseball's first player manager since the Reds had Pete Rose fill both roles from 1984-1986.
Did he mean Jonathan India?
No, I think he meant Luke Maley.
What was the last team issue that Luke Maley spoke on?
Well, I think he gave.
He brought out the lineup card that one time.
Well, it was like he gave a rousing speech during
pitches. He's a two-way player.
Yeah. So Luke Maley, manager of the Reds, while he is a backup catcher. Do you like that?
I mean, I love that Mr. Sheldon took the Vegas odds list and put them in order.
Yeah.
And then just threw a complete wild card there to close it out.
Yeah, he gave the best bus speech we've ever seen. I mean, that's a fact, Craig.
Like, all the Vegas odds names are on that list, and I don't think there's an atrocious one on there. Is there a name on that list that you would be like, dang it, this stinks?
Yeah, Luke Maley.
Luke Maley would probably
No,
be the name.
not sorry, not that one. Yes, I meant like on the Vegas odds one. Like you could have your least popular picks, like Barry Larkin.
I think Freddie Benavides. I think Freddie Benavides would be a bad hire.
I'd be pretty sour on Schumacher.
I think that's where it's going. That's the unfortunate.
He manages a bad team right now with a lot of the same issues we have.
A lot of the same issues we
And
have.
we're just like, we'll have him up here because he wears the same number as David Bell. We don't have to put a New Jersey.
What? So like the manager,
realistically, it'll be the cheapest option. Whoever
is-
they can get, it'll be the cheapest.
There's
option.
no options. It's Schumacher, right?
I don't know.
I really feel like that's just done already.
I don't think it will be
Because they're going to put on a graphic manager of the year 2 years ago, and
I have
30% of the fan base is going to get excited.
I have a feeling it won't be Skip.
Terry Francona.
No, but
if it comes out as Terry Francona, what does that do for the excitement levels for you? And you're not allowed to bring up health, because I'm assuming health is obviously would be a concern, but also a confirmation of things going in the right direction. If Terry Francona comes back, obviously he feels positive that his health is returned to the point to where he can get back out there, and the organization would have vetted the health to the point to where they would feel confident that health won't be an issue. Not saying it couldn't pop up. So take health aside. If Francona is the guy, that's the name to me that I think. There's some other good names that we've mentioned, but Francona to me, I think, outside of your guys' opinions, the fan base as a whole, that sends a message to the entire fan base. Like, oh, yeah, Francona's not coming here if we're as bad as we think, and they're not going after Francona if they think we're a couple years away from competing. So I think Francona just gives off the best vibes of, oh, we're going to win. Like this is what they're aiming for. Is that would be the most interesting name to me because of that. But the health concerns, I get it. But I just said take that off the table.
I would be very, very excited if Terry Francona was my manager. I'd be very excited. I think it gives half the fan base what they want in terms of holding players accountable, and you have the ability to be that old school type of manager. And I think there's also a part of him that loves the Cincinnati franchise, Cincinnati Reds, the city of Cincinnati. I think the people in this town would really welcome Terry Francona here, and I think it could be the right move. I think it really could. I think going any of the other options, those younger options who don't have a history of winning, I think that's a bad move. Hiring inside the organization is terrible. If they do that, I will be 1,000,000% out. Because if you think things will change inside the organization, then what David Bell would have done next season, you are wrong. It will be the same exact thing. So I think that it has to be outside the organization, which is why I wouldn't be too upset with Skip. I would like somebody who didn't play for the Reds, who wasn't a part of the Reds. I want a fresh face completely. And I think Terry Francona gives me that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We'll see what ends up happening when it's all said and done as far as that's concerned. All right, we'll step away for a few moments. When we come back, contender, pretender. We'll sneak in some college football picks for Jacob as well. Jacob, you've been putting those on the socials too.
I have.
Yeah, so if we run out of time, we'll put that on there. But contender, pretender, NFL when we come back.
I am going to film a pick stick. That's the only pick. Maybe like Milrow touchdown. Oh, we're back.
Nice. Now Casey sends us back and we're not even ready.
So yeah, sorry for blabbing.
Man, this is like I don't know. This is a rough day for you, Casey. No one actually believes that. I definitely don't think that, so,
Also, hand up to me. I was wrong. Francona did play for the Reds for
when you said that, I was like, well, but many moons ago. It doesn't count when
it was so long ago. Give me a break. It was so long ago.
By the way, Dusty Baker's fully retired, right? Like
I'd make.
You're
the call.
never retired for a certain check.
Correct. Well, that check wouldn't.
Well, check. So. But we're eliminated as far as that goes. NFL contender, pretender. I think this one's pretty easy. I think we know the rules of this one. We're 3 weeks in.
Yeah.
We're 3 weeks in.
I don't know. I'm gonna try to spin zone some of these.
I like that. Spin zone, contender, pretender. We throw out the name of the team, and I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I don't need to mansplain this to you all, so let's just get right into it. Contender, pretender. Let's start right off with the Chicago Bears.
Everett asked a good question before we get started.
That's fair.
Contender, Super Bowl or playoffs?
Let's just do playoffs.
Okay, contender to make the playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs.
Okay.
Thank you, Everett. Thank you for that.
That's a good question. That's a good clarification.
So a little mansplaining, but that was actually on my end because I didn't, contender for what? But playoff contender. We're 3 weeks in. There's some teams that we had high expectations for coming into the year that are not off to a great start, and some teams that we passed over in the offseason that are off to a good start. It's very premature to actually have definitive opinions on these teams, but we're 3 weeks in. We've seen enough to kind of formulate some kind of opinion on these teams. Let's start with the Chicago Bears. We saw the season that C.J. Stroud had last year as a rookie. We thought that, man, if he could do that, and Caleb Williams has way more weapons than he does. Imagine what he's going to be able to do. It's been a little bit of a bumpy start for the Chicago Bears and, of course, Williams.
Yeah.
The Bears, contender, pretender 3 weeks in.
I think they're a contender. I think the Bears are absolutely a contender to make the playoffs in the NFC, and I'm really haven't changed much since the beginning of the season. I think they've looked better every single week offensively. I think the defense is coming into their own, and they're very, very banged up right now. Getting Keenan Allen back is going to open up the middle of the field and give Caleb Williams one of the best safety blankets in the entire league. When it comes to a guy with sure hands that runs crisp routes, I think it's going to allow him to relax a lot more back in the pocket. He's looked great on everything on schedule. There just hasn't been a whole lot of that. I think as the O-line meshes together and plays a little bit better, he's going to look more like what we expected Caleb to look like in year one when he opened the season, minus money to win Rookie of the Year. So I think they're going to be just fine. I think they're absolutely going to contend for the playoffs in the NFC because, again, I don't know how many great teams there are in the NFC. I think 9 wins will probably get you in the playoffs or at least in that conversation at the end of the year, and I think the Bears are going to be right there.
Pretender. I mean, I think the Bears I think the Bears stink. They're third worst in yards per game. They're, 10th worst in points per game. I think that offense is a joke, and this is no disrespect to Caleb, actually a little bit. But until I see what he can do fully, I'm not gonna buy it. I think Caleb Williams can be a good quarterback in the NFL. I just don't think it's going to be this season. I've seen a lot of Caleb Williams so far, and I haven't liked what I've seen. I'm going to say pretender.
I'm also going to say pretender. Yardage is fine, but you got to put points up on the board. And I think that the NFC North is considerably better than what we thought. I think the Vikings are better than what we thought. The Lions and the Packers are pretty good too. So I find it hard for them to be able to win in the back half of their schedule. And I'm kind of riding high on the Commanders as well at the moment because I kind of have to. There's not very many wins I see on their schedule moving forward is what I'm getting at. So, pretender.
I'm so in the middle on this team because they've looked so bad to start. But the opinion, if Caleb Williams didn't look the way he did this past Sunday, I'm completely out.
Right. Oh, me too.
Completely out. But it's not like he had that good game that he had it's not like he had that game in week 1 and then had weeks 1 and 2 performance in 2 and 3. He's progressively gotten better with each and every start. We just watched Jaden Daniels, who looked unbelievable this past Monday night. He was getting better from week 1 to week 2, and obviously somehow goes from week 2 to week 3 looking like Superman. But these rookie quarterbacks are getting better and better each week. I'm going to lean closer to contender than pretender, mainly because the talent's there. And I think Caleb's going to continue to get better, but I'm only as close to contender as I am because of the fact that he had a great game this past weekend. But they have to put points on the board. I mean, he had a great game from a statistical standpoint as far as the yards he threw for and the first downs, all that. But you have to put the ball in the end zone. You have to put points up on the board, and that's where I'm at with the Chicago Bears. So I'm going to say contender, but man, that's an in-between one for me.
I just pulled up the Bears schedule, and I see a lot of wins,
especially the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6. Oh, damn.
Panthers, Jags, Commanders,
Jesus,
Cardinals will be a coin flip. Patriots win. And then division games, you'll split them out. Seahawks, they're just as good as. Yeah, I think this Bears team's definitely going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
that roster is very encouraging. That schedule's very encouraging.
I thought the Bengals had a encouraging schedule as well.
Yeah, I mean,
4-2. That's what I thought.
Jacob's an idiot. All right. Next up.
To be fair, I said we weren't going to start hot.
All right, let's go with the New York Jets. The Jets, Jets. Obviously, they're going to be a very polarizing team because they have one of my favorite QBs in the league, and that is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has the Jets at 2-1. Some people still seem to be a little squirmish on the Jets. I'm not. They have a very strong defense to complement. Still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion. You have one of the best wide receivers in the league in Garrett Wilson. Complementary run game. I know that offensive line could be a little shaky, but to their credit, they've been coaching around those deficiencies, getting the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands pretty quickly. Are the Jets a contender or a pretender? I'm leaning more contender for the Jets, at least as we sit here right now, because every team has flaws, as we've seen. There's a lot of, even the 3-0 teams have things about them that I'm not completely sold on. So every team has flaws at this point. We can touch on the flaws of the Jets, but as long as Aaron Rodgers looks like he did this past week, as he's gotten better each week coming off that injury, the Jets are going to be fine. It's a quarterback-driven league. It's why I'm not counting out the Bengals at this point either. I'm all in on the Jets. I think that they're a contender out of the AFC.
Yeah, the Jets are a Super Bowl contender, so they're certainly a playoff contender. I think the Jets are in a better spot than they've been in for a long, long time. They're not asking Aaron Rodgers to do what he did in Green Bay. They're asking Aaron Rodgers to do what he can do right now, and he's doing it very, very well. I think their backfield is one of the best in the league with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, and the receiving core I have a lot of faith in as long as Aaron Rodgers is that quarterback, because he's been able to unlock something out of Allen Lazard that no one else in the league ever has. So he's the legitimate number 2 threat when Rodgers is back there throwing the ball, and everyone knows what I think about Garrett Wilson, and the defense is great. So, I think the Jets are a bona fide contender, Super Bowl contender, right in the mix for the AFC East Championship.
I'm going to say everything that Jacob just said, because with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, that whole roster comes down to, is Aaron Rodgers going to be healthy at the end of this season? And I think he will be. I'm not going to just sit here and say, I think Aaron Rodgers is injury prone. I don't think that'll happen. I think the Jets can win a Super Bowl this season. I think there's a path there. Again, 2 of their teams in their division are terrible. They will get divisional wins. I think they can split with the Bills this season. And I think with Aaron Rodgers, they were 1 quarterback away last year. They were 1 quarterback away from making the postseason. They didn't have it. This year, they do have Aaron Rodgers. They have a very talented offense, arguably the second best running back room in the NFL, maybe top 3 running back room in the NFL, on top of having Garrett Wilson as well. So I'm in on the New York Jets.
Yeah, I think you look at their schedule, and I think they're going to be favored in every game except for the Bills away. I think that they legitimately might be, well, I guess the Texans too. But I think that they can compete against the Texans too. I'm not scared at all of this team floundering. I think they've got plenty of wins on their schedule. Love Aaron Rodgers, the player. I think he's going to be able to get this team where they need to go. So obviously contender with Jacob on the Super Bowl contender as well.
All right, let's just rip this Band-Aid off. The Cleveland Browns, contender or pretender?
I think they're a contender for the playoffs. If this was contender to make the Super Bowl, they would be a pretender. But they're a contender to make the playoffs. Like you said, the defense is very, very, very good. They're not playing like it yet. But when that defense gets rolling, what do you need from Deshaun Watson or whoever the quarterback is at that point? Not a whole lot. Obviously, we've seen from Deshaun so far that he's not even able to give you that little bit that you
No.
do need more often than not. But if you make a switch to Jameis Winston and he's able to protect the football a little bit and put a few points on the board, I think the Browns are definitely a contender to make the playoffs. It pains me to say it. I wish I could say pretender, but when you have that skill on the defensive side of the football, I'm never going to count you out.
I'm going to say pretender, and that's only because until they find a quarterback who is liked by his teammates and can make serviceable passes, I can't buy the roster. I can't buy the team without a quarterback. So I'm going to say pretenders. A good defense can get you into the playoffs, no doubt about it. The Steelers have done it for the past several seasons. But yeah, I just can't buy your quarterback. So for that reason, I'm out.
Respectfully, of course. Respectfully.
Well,
you
actually,
know.
that one's actually I'm not respectful.
How
of that.
disrespectful of you. Casey, the Browns.
They stink. They're the worst team in the league. Yeah, they're pretenders. I think if they play a team that has a top 10 defensive line, they're going to give up 5 sacks at the moment. Just from starting the game. Deshaun Watson looks lost out there. He's creating a bunch of sacks for his team. He's putting his team in a really bad position. And they play a lot of really good defenses in their schedule.
Including this weekend. You know,
Including-
the Raiders should be like one I feel confident
They don't
about,
got
but
no slouches in Las Vegas.
I like it. No, I'm going to lean pretender, but man, after this Sunday, if things don't go well, I'm out. And we'll lean or contender for clear. I'll lean towards pretender if things don't go well this weekend. But 1 and 2, they have the most important side of the ball cover. That makes a lot of playoff contenders because of their defense. I'll lean that way. But I also look at the AFC. I think you're going to get 2 teams out of the AFC East. I'd like to think you're going to get 2 out of the North. You're going to get 1 out of the South and 1 out of the West, and maybe a fringe second out of the. There's going to be 2 spots that are up for grabs with 5 different teams. Cleveland will be one of those fighting for that final spot because of that defense. But man, the margin for error is so slim. And yes, Deshaun Watson, I think, has been sacked more than any other quarterback in the league as far as that goes. All right, next up, let's go to Baltimore. Baltimore. 1 and 2 on the season. They got the first win of the season against the Cowboys, a big lead that they let kind of get away a little bit. It got interesting there towards the end. Are the Ravens a playoff contender or are they a pretender? This doesn't look like the Ravens teams of years past, only 3 weeks in, of course.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people talk about the Ravens following their win against the Cowboys, and they're saying, all right, the Ravens are 1 and 2 now, back on track, and just pick them to win the North blindly. I must have watched a different Ravens team than everyone else through the first 3 weeks because I think they've looked pretty terrible. And every time they get a lead, they blow it. They blew a lead to the Raiders and ended up losing, and they tried their hardest to blow a lead in Dallas.
They did.
So I think the Ravens are a playoff contender because of the way they run the football and the way that defense plays, but I am more out on the Ravens as a Super Bowl contender than I've been at really any point in time in this current Lamar regime. I don't think this works whatsoever with Derrick Henry in the backfield. I think you're tying your hands behind your back, forcing yourself to run the ball 30 times a game, which they obviously do very well, but when you're not diverse on offense, you're going to struggle in close games, in big-time games, and that's what we've seen so far. As soon as games get close, they struggle. And I think it's going to keep being an issue with them all year long. I think they're going to make the playoffs, maybe win the division, probably win the division. But, man, I am out on them as a Super Bowl contender. But for the sake of the playoffs, I'll say contender.
If the division is what it was a couple years ago or even last year at points, I think the Ravens would struggle this season, but I think the division's down this year. I think the AFC North, we all overhyped it. We have the Bengals, we have Joe Burrow, but a defense that's terrible. The Steelers have a really good defense, really bad offense. The Browns, as of this point, don't have either. Granted, that can change, obviously, but to this point, the Browns' defense hasn't woken up yet. I think the Ravens can take care of this division. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I just don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl. I don't think they have what it takes to win a Super Bowl. So if I'm going to say, based on the rules of this game, that they are contenders, based on I think they're going to make the postseason, but they will not win the Super Bowl this season.
Might win a third MVP, though.
I'm not going to rule out Super Bowl for this team. I just feel like it's too soon. It's too early to tell at the moment. I think if we were asking this question 2 weeks from now, we could get a better picture of where this Ravens team is. I know that's not how this game works, but I'm going to say that they are contenders. I think that this team, this rushing attack is unbelievable. I'm sure the defense will figure itself out. Some teams just need a little bit to get ready. to get rolling for the season, and the Bengals should know that. I mean, we've done that for how many years now? I'm going to hold out faith that the Ravens also figure it out as well.
All right, we're pretty much out of time on the radio side, so we'll zip through this one pretty quick. I know this is the one you really wanted to touch on at the end of the day, but Pittsburgh, 3-0 on the season. They have very good defense, not a very good offense. The QB has improved, of course. Mike Tomlin never finishes with the record below 500. We all thought in the offseason that this would be the year, but they have a team that they're very capable of beating this weekend. They could be 4-0. Are they a contender or are they a pretender? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Contender, pretender. Jacob, we'll start with you.
I think they're definitely a contender. They've been a contender for years with much worse quarterback play than what they're getting from Justin Fields. I think if Mike Tomlin somehow makes the crazy decision and puts Russell Wilson in sometime in the near future, that'll make him an ironclad pretender. But as long as Justin Fields is playing like he is right now, they're absolutely a contender. That defense is better than it's been in many, many years. And he's throwing the ball 30 times a game at 78% completion percentage at a 96 quarterback rating. When are you getting that out of Justin Fields other than Ohio State? This is play we haven't seen from him in a long time. He's attacking the middle of the field. They have a dang good kicker. Shout out Everett Henry. Chris Boswell bangs him through all the time. So I think if it comes down to a field goal, I have good faith in the Steelers winning the game, and the defense is phenomenal. So I think it will more often than not. I think they're absolutely contenders to make the playoffs.
They're a contender, but it's annoying.
Yeah.
I just don't like dealing with it every single year. But they're a contender. Based on the rules of this game.
Yeah, they're contenders.
All right. So I think, look, they 4-0. They only have to be 500 the rest of the way just to sneak into the playoffs. The Browns don't look as dominant as what you never thought dominant, but the Browns are actually verge being very bad. You got two matchups with them in the back. The Bengals, if they truly are as bad as what most are saying, we're hoping not, but if they're bad, that's 2 games against a bad Bengals team. That's 2 games against a bad Browns team, and the Ravens aren't as strong as we thought. Yes, I think this team could be on the verge of just more than a playoff, being a playoff favorite. So that, as Elliot said, that's annoying.
Very annoying. Very annoying.
If we have to use one word to describe teams throughout the NFL, I think we would all agree annoying is definitely the Pittsburgh Steelers. So whatever. But all right, that wraps it up for us on the radio side. Woo! Until next week, or no, not next week, until tomorrow, until next week for Jacob, that is.
That's right.
This has been Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, the Cincinnati Bengals, contender, pretender, as we sit right now.
Well, as you sit right now, you have to say pretender, right? Defense is the worst defense in the league. The offensive line just lost their starting right tackle. The star defensive player, the lone bright spot on the defense, is not practicing right now. The guy on offense that had issues all offseason with practice is limited in practice. I think they're absolutely pretenders right now. Hopefully that changes this weekend. The defense can wake up a little bit, play the Panthers, and the offense can look good, and we can beat a team that we're supposed to beat by a lot. But, yeah, absolutely a pretender right now. I'm not really sure how you could spin it another way.
I don't even want to say it, but they are. I mean, they're pretenders. There's nobody in Bengals country that fully believes the Bengals this season are going to have a Super Bowl run as of this moment, as of September 26, 2024. Could things change? Yeah, absolutely they could. But I haven't seen them change yet. Until I see them change, they are frauds, they are pretenders, and that sucks.
Yeah, I have to agree with you guys. I think that this team is very fraudulent at the moment. It has nothing to do with the star quarterback or the offense, really. It's just all about defense. You can't play this league without having both sides kind of figured out, at least be competent. The defense looks incompetent at the moment. So,
yeah, and look, they're 0-3. You have to say pretender right now, but obviously, again, this is week 3, contender, pretender.
Early.
Everything can change. Let me ask you, because I'm starting to look at this. Like, we thought, man, there's going to be some really good teams left out of the playoffs. The last 2 years I felt that, and then, of course, everything always sorts itself out. How many locks out of the AFC are there? I think the Chiefs are a lock. Again, we can't do injuries. So, like, of course, not when I say not do injuries, we can't just, well, if they stay healthy. Well, of course. As of right now, 3 weeks in, heading into week 4, how many playoff locks are there out of the AFC that we feel pretty confident about?
Chiefs, Bills, Houston, I'm out. Locks, I'm out after those 3.
Jets?
I don't think they're a lock. because you think Aaron Rodgers is a lock to play 17 games?
No.
Right.
So 3 teams. Yeah.
I think Houston's that much better than the rest of the AFC South that I'm not worried about the Vikings' loss. I think CJ's going to look fine. I think they're probably going to go 6-0 in the division, maybe 4-2, which is still plenty to win. We know the Chiefs and the Bills are going to get in because of quarterback play. I would love to say either the Ravens or the Bengals, but I don't feel great about either of those teams as locks right now. So if we're going ironclad locks in the AFC, I'm at 3 teams.
I'm not there yet with Pittsburgh, but if they start out 4-0, I'm almost putting them in that lock. Even
I
with
don't
that,
disagree.
Because if they're 4-0 and the Bengals Browns look bad this weekend, that gauntlet of a back half of the schedule that we thought was a gauntlet back in July and August is now, half of your games are against 2 of the worst teams in the NFL because of their defense at this point. So, I think it's tough to really kind of start to tally up some of these locks out of the AFC. What about the NFC at this point? Because the NFC is just as wildly unpredictable right now as the AFC. Who's a lock out of there? Because I know I said no injuries, but based on what we see now, this Christian McCaffrey thing, because he's injured now, and it looks like it could potentially be a long-term thing, the Niners with Christian McCaffrey versus without, completely different animal. There's a reason. Look, there's Christian McCaffrey. I don't know how many teams are willing to give him $20 million a year.
Yeah.
But because of how much he meant to the Niners, all of a sudden, it's like, he may not be $20 million a year to a lot of other teams, but to us, for us to do what we need to do, we need him at that dollar amount. He's not there. I don't know. They're kind of an interesting one, too. Who are the locks out of the NFC, in your opinion?
Is there one?
I don't like.
Is there one?
I looked. I tried to find one in the NFC North, and I can't say the Vikings are a lock yet. I can't say the Packers are a lock without a quarterback, and I can't say the Lions are a lock because of how good the other 2 teams are.
Right.
Outside of that,
there's not a lock.
The NFC East, you're going to lock the Eagles or the Cowboys from what we've seen so far? Are we so sure the Commanders aren't going to win that division?
Can't lock them.
The NFC South, I'm never going to put a lock on any of those teams to be good. I would love to say the Falcons. They're the one I'm most confident in right now.
And
but
the
they're
NFC
1-2.
West, there isn't one either.
You want to know who I would? Only because of familiarity and consistency, the Buccaneers. Not Super Bowl favorites. I'm only saying because the Saints, I don't know who they are. The Falcons, I want to believe that, like what we've talked about. Panthers, whatever. Like Seattle, I want to believe in them, but we'll see I need to see more. Tampa is the exact same team as last year. Yeah. And we've already seen the start for them. They're 2-1. They're coming off of a bad loss. Remember, they did that last year. They'd win a couple in a row. Baker would look fantastic, and then he'd have a couple off weeks, and then they'd explode again. I guess if I had one lock, which is wild to say, out of the NFC, I mean, Detroit, I guess, why are we out in Detroit right now?
Because Minnesota and Green Bay are both good.
I think they're.
And when they're rolling, they're better, you think?
I don't know that, but I also don't think Detroit's a lock to finish 1 or 2 in that division, and I don't think you're getting 3 teams in.
I think they had automatic wins in that division last season. I don't think they have automatic wins in that division this season.
All right.
So you can't bank on that.
All right, last thing I guess we still got some time. This is good. So
we have the video.
Yeah, we have the video.
The Cleveland video, very funny.
Can I ask one more Bengals question, and then
yeah.
we go close it out with the Cleveland? Is that the baseball one, or is this just the theme in general?
It's just a tourism video. Very funny.
Last football question here, and then we'll move over to that real quick. But the Bengals, you guys talk about how they have the worst defense in the NFL. What stats are you looking at that you justify them being the worst defense in the NFL, not just the game that you just watched? I only ask because statistically, the Browns are statistically, there are some things that the Browns are worse at than the Bengals statistically, and no one's putting the Browns in the worst defense conversation. The Bengals keep falling in the middle of the pack in a lot of these just very simplistic numbers. I know that football is changing and being a very analytical like baseball is, so there's some of these advanced metrics that people are looking at more so than just total yards given up a game, this, that, and the other. What is it? What's that number? What is that stat, that analytic that you're looking at, Jake, and saying, yeah, this is why everyone's out on the Bengals defense, that it's all-time bad?
It's just not – it's watching the games. I mean, who cares about the statistics if you're going to let a quarterback have 2 incompletions in his 3rd career start? I saw statistics that Dax Hill was great in coverage on Monday night. That's wonderful. He also allowed a bomb touchdown to ice the game. Like, statistics are great and all, and I know that they mean a lot, and I'm usually a stats guy, but – everyone that tells me the Bengals defense is in the middle of the league through 3 weeks, I wonder if they've watched games, because I've watched this team play, and I know you can pull numbers that say that they're not the worst in the league, but no one else made Jaden Daniels look this good. The Giants, who are supposed to be a team picking in the top 5 in the draft, did not allow them to score a touchdown. They scored 21 points on 7 field goals, and they come into Cincinnati and put up 33 on 2 incompletions and run the ball down your throat.
Yeah.
You hold Mahomes to 180 passing yards or whatever it was, so I was getting a little bit higher on the secondary, but was that just because they could run it at will? I don't think this defense is good at anything. They're okay at everything, which makes them bad at everything.
I agree.
If you're not great defending the pass, which they're not, they're okay at it, and they're terrible at defending the run. And those two things do not mesh to have a good defense. I know the numbers say they're better than they look, but it doesn't seem like it to me.
Yeah, when your team is very inconsistent, especially defensively, that's what makes you the worst, because you can't rely on one thing or the other. The Bengals right now defensively, their game plan is we're going to eliminate one part of your game, and then you're going to have to beat us the other way. And the other way, just you saw what happened: 21 of 23, 250, 3 touchdowns. I mean, it looks ugly. Looks really, really bad. Bengals can stop you doing one thing, but can't do the other thing. They can't just play complementary defense, and that's what makes them the worst defense right now.
Fair enough.
My stat to answer your question is opponent average team passer rating. The Bengals are 7th worst in the NFL. The only teams worse than the Bengals at allowing the quarterback to have successful games: Patriots, Jacksonville, Carolina, the Rams, the Commanders, and Arizona. That's where the Bengals are. The quarterbacks aren't getting the opposing quarterbacks aren't getting enough pressure. You're not getting a ton of sacks. What was the stat you told me earlier? How many players have more sacks than the Bengals have as a team this season?
Just 2.
2 players.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an eye thing. We can see what's going on. Jayden Daniels, I've never seen a guy who had that much time to throw a football. He had unlimited time. He could have stood back there for a half hour, and nobody was going to come for him.
And again, I'm being very simplistic with this. Again, I know that things are changing with football and how we use the metrics to analyze a team. And so I'm being very simplistic with this. But I'm looking at, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 12 teams who have given up 1,000 yards or more already total yardage. The Bengals aren't one of those. And that's why I'm asking this, is just because it's like I'm making it very simplistic about total yardage, yes, but even from a points per game standpoint, that's where it can get a little dicey, giving up 26 a game. That's a problem. To where last year maybe people weren't overreacting to the defensive numbers as much because you were at least a good scoring defense. The scoring defense is where I'd be more alarmed than anything else, letting teams score at will. But at the same time, it's like just from a yardage standpoint, even the passing yards a game and the rushing yards a game, it's middle of the pack. They're a middle, according to these right in front, they're a middle of the pack defense. And that's why I'm only asking, because I'm not saying you guys are wrong. I guess that's why I was just kind of curious your thoughts, because some people believe Bengals fans are overreacting dramatically as far as how bad this team is.
So to be middle of the pack on total yardage on defense, playing the Patriots and the Commanders offense doesn't seem great.
Are you sure the Commanders are bad?
They're not that good.
James Rapine there.
Yeah. Shout out James Rapine. Yeah, no,
he got beat up a little. Yeah,
Jayden Daniels is great, and he's going to be a really, really good quarterback in this league for a long time. He just had a top 10 passing performance in the history of the NFL since the merger. Like, that's not. Yeah. He can't be that good in 3 starts. It's just not a thing.
I don't think he's going to only have 2 incompletions, 250 yards, no turnovers, and a few touchdowns a game moving forward. But I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
To be fair, I've been high on him coming into the season from the beginning, so it's just one of those. I don't know if I have a fever. I just can't believe I'm sitting here defending them a little bit more than you guys.
Reed said it shortly after the game ended. He said, where Joe Burrow fumble on a scramble, not even the defense was fault away from beating the Chiefs, and then your Tanner Hudson fumbled at the goal line. Charlie Jones fumbled on a couple plays you could point to in that game from beating the Patriots, and then your one defensive stop, maybe a 2-point conversion PI away from beating the Commanders. Like, this team is not